Hello guys, welcome to my channel. As you can see in the picture today, we will start the story of what if Issei was betrayed and becomes the Knight of the Shadow Part 1. Issei Hayo actually just Issei was betrayed by the supernatural leaders and the women that said to love him after extracting drag out of him, who turned out to be a woman, and gave him a punch on the stomach on ruining her image, and be called joke by everyone. Who turn out to be Drake but is called Delia and left to the side of his ex-harem new lover and new pillar named Ashend, after take the evil piece out of him, and remove all trace of office power including Great Red who is also a girl, and kick him into a magic circle, to send him away in a transport circle, and what was even worse was being told that he was disowned by his parents and all his stuff was burned with tears in Issei and a look of anger towards Ash and was going to reveal his identity, but was teleported away in a forest, with a look of lost and broken. But all of a sudden someone came to save and help him to recover. It was Sakvera who brought Issei to a cabin, and has been taken care of for a week, by staying by his side, and watch over him to make sure he doesn't do anything stupid like killing himself. But in the end of the week she had to go or else her parents and everyone would get suspicious of her. So she gave Issei a phone in case he need to call Sakvera or ask her if he needs anything. When she left, Issei wasn't motivated to anything and just let his true self come out, and decided to fool around with his new phone, like get apps and watch videos out of random. But that became the start of the new Issei. The video he had just watched was a motivational videos. After listening to it made Issei got up with a few tears, but with a face filled with determination as Issei wiped his tears and walked to the desk, and began to write a list on what he remembers being the X-pillar about information about dungeons, labyrinths filled with dangerous monsters and locations of missions that were disregarded for not being important and monsters that threaten the humanity and supernatural, and make his new goal that was to save lives. So Issei begins to train his body to be more resistant while also trying to get stronger, faster. But that all changed when he discovered the little power he still has from Office and Scarlet Aka Great Red. With Scarlet power certified his body, his skin became even more resistant, and helping out with his strength and muscles, including his blood, gave him a new ability, such as being regeneration, that surpasses even the Phoenix. How did he figure this out? He accidentally stabbed himself with a sharp tree branch by falling from a tree. With office power increased, his magical reserves slowly growing each time he uses it to the point of exhaustion, but by doing it made his magic reserves increase further. But the craziest thing he has done is to attack himself with magic to build even more resistance against magic, and to the point where it succeeds, he increases his magic reserves, while also increasing resistance, so win-win. But making his body extremely exhausted and wounded, but to him it showed results, and also discovered small amounts of dragonic and demonic magic he has, but they were so little that he would only be able to use it once, to the point where it would disappear. So Issei decided to increase his demonic energy with the power of Office, although this completely backfired, making his demonic energy explode inside his body, almost turning him into a devil. But with Issei determination and the will to make sure he does not turn into a devil, pointed all of his demonic energy into his right arm. But sadly, the amount of demonic energy was too much, causing his arm to start morphing and bleeding, with no intention of stopping. He would grab the sword that he received and begin to store the rest of the demonic energy into the sword. For some reason this was working, and it surprised him that it changed shape, as he was dedicated to his demonic energy into it to relieve him from the pain. Slowly, the pain went away, but the results were shocking. His right arm became that of a demonic red arm, with glowing blue cracks in his sword. After that happened, he decided to take it slow with the dragonic powers. Suddenly he learns how to use a magic surprisingly 4 type. But they were different than his own dragon abilities, discovering that they add more power, and for some reason, he can eat those 4 types of magic, which he decided to give it a name, Dragon Slayer magic. Reason why he believes this magic could damage and kill a dragon still has not been tested, but that is what he believes. He was happy with the results of his training and is happy with the unlock powers that being, increasing his strength, his resistance, speed, and the new magic he obtained to increase his growth. He spoke these words that gave him a push. Might controls everything. Without strength, you cannot protect anything. So I need more power, he said. With a smile on his face, he believes with this new power and the growth of his abilities, he will surpass his past self, and show the world that Issei no Nero will show them the power of hard work and determine to protect the weak and maybe save the world. But it's not like that will ever happen, right? 1. Now let's get back to Nero new weapons. Let's start with his sword that he got from Sakvira that he requested from her. It was just a simple western sword, but after the accident with his demonic energy, that he named Rebellion, a massive long sword with a heavy double-edged blade. The grip is plain, but the guard is skeletal, with a skulldison on each side, leading to the rib cage from which the blade emerges. On one side of the blade, the skull is that of a human, while the other uses a horned demon skull. The power of Rebellion is remarkably powerful than any magical sword. It is sharp enough to pierce the surface of the strongest object, while it is powered by his demonic arm, and it is also one of the most durable objects capable of withstanding hits from any enemies he has encountered so far. Next would be the Devil Bringer, also known as his demonic right arm. That physical manifestation, his demonic power. The arm possesses superhuman strength, which it can also manifest through a larger, spectral arm. It is also capable of absorbing powerful items and manifesting their power. Although Nero displays discomfort with his arm and hides it from other people, but in the end he comes to accept it, but now sees it as a tool to be used against evil. The most notable feature of the Devil Bringer is, of course, its unusual ability to summon a larger, spectral arm. This arm can do feats of supernatural strength, which Nero often uses to his advantage when fighting demons and monsters. Nero regularly uses it to move and throw objects much larger than him. The Devil Bringer itself also seems to be highly durable, which when combined with its strength, makes it very useful for blocking attacks. Although the Devil Bringer is constantly glowing, the strength of the glow appears to be linked to several factors. Those include how much focus Nero is putting into it or how much energy he channels through it, Nero's own stamina and emotional state, and presence of some important objects. Throughout his training, he mastered his own style with Rebellion that he named Swordmaster style, but this wasn't enough for him, so Nero decided to also learn on how to use a katana. And the reason why is because he was born in Japan, so he should also try to at least also learn how to use his home country's weapons. That's when he decided to go off to a journey without notifying Sakvira and was at the force of Kyoto, this time training with a katana that he named Muramasa, created by the same way. Like Rebellion, a powerful sword that could slice the mountains apart with one slash. But even if the sword is powerful, the person who wields it isn't able to use it properly. But that all changed on the day Issei found himself a master. Her name was Shino Kajiro, a direct descendant of Sasaki Kajiro. She has been watching Nero using the katana, couldn't help but be impressed, but she's noticed that he still needs training to improve, so she came out of her hiding place and decided to teach him the proper way of using a katana. This, of course, made it a happy learning directly from a descendant of a powerful swordsman. 2. Shino has been telling him about Sasaki that amazed Nero and can't help but think he wishes he could have meet him. Throughout the days, he continued training under Shino instructions and has gotten better, but she has noticed that something is bothering Nero and decided to ask about. Nero began to tell Shino since he trusts her and explain his story on how he was known as the Red Dragon Emperor and how he helped the supernatural leader and his exorum until it all went thrown to the trash. After hearing the complete story from Nero, she couldn't help but just get angry and call the supernatural leaders idiots, and that the women he loved only seek power from him to the point where they just find a pretty boy to give him the power, without realizing a person who loved them and worked hard to make sure they could live a life in peace. She then began to make Nero reflect, did all the supernatural leaders truly betray him? After hearing that, he began to think and remember the people who were there and who weren't there, and their face expressions, and remembered Thor's face showing that he was in a disagreement with this. Even the face of a goddess, who was supposed to hate men, couldn't help but be worried for him, and remembered when going to the dungeons killing monsters and noticing their souls being collected, where he understood that someone was watching him, including some people who were his friends, remembering a specific Dragon King sacred gear user shouting that this isn't right and a girl supporting him. But everyone ignored them, including a team he met when going to Grigori, and that when he began to speak the names on whose didn't betray him: Thor, Artemis, Hades, Saji, and the brown-haired girl who was the bishop of Sona. Peerage name is Riyatim/Dog. After remembering them, he couldn't help call himself an idiot for believing everyone was against him, and decided to have a talk with each of them to explain what he's doing, and not to mention his future plans. After finally seeing Nero's determination back on his face, she then talked about her daughter, who is also a swordwoman. but she's a half-elf, and telling him the story about her husband and how they encountered a monster on where is. She was completely exhausted and being told to run away with their child, and that he'll stay behind and keep the monster away from them. After doing that, Shino ran back after hiding their daughter, but was in shock seeing her husband's dead body, but also the monster that seemed to be dead from bombardment of magical attacks. It seems her husband fought till the end. As Nero heard the story, he couldn't help but be sad. She lost her husband, but she began to speak that day made her daughter grow up and trained under her. She even teased Nero by saying that she doesn't mind that her daughter goes out with him, including on saying she would be alright with her joining his new harem, which made Nero completely surprised. But what surprised him even further was that she asked for grandchildren. This made Nero shout back, saying that he doesn't know her, and he'll see about that once he gets to know her daughter more or even gets to meet her. This satisfied Shino and decided to teach Nero his final lesson, that being a battle against her. 1. The sparks and the sound of clashing blade. It was none other than Nero and Shino. After another clash with their blades, they separated. We can see Shino with scratch on her clothes, but on the other hand Nero has some small and large cuts on his body. Shino was about to say it is her win, but was completely caught off guard when seeing Nero's body regenerate from her attack. As she saw this, can't help but get excited, and thinks that there's no reason to hold back anymore, and see if he can take all her hits. After the battle, the winner was Nero, with wounds healing him as he holds his sword at his master's neck, while she was smiling while her sword on the ground at least 2 feet away from her, as they bow towards her ready to leave with lessons he learned, as she waved him goodbye, until he turned back towards her and say, "If you need me, call Devil May Cry, that's my future business," he shouted as he left for her sight. Shino walked back to her home and began to prepare tea and brought it outside to her brooch. As she looked at the sky, that boy is special, and with honor. I can't believe Yusaka would trade him away for a man who looks are the only thing catching. I thought she was smarter, but now it's time for my family to reach happiness. I can't wait to see my precious grandchildren. I wish you were still here with me, Wana said Shino with a sad smile, looking at the protract, but then all of a sudden felt a warmth she's forgotten in years. A spectral projection of man with pointy ears. As Shino had tears in her eyes, she knew it was him watching of her as she spoke some words to him. Even if he isn't here, don't worry about the future of Beatrix. I believe if she is by his side, they'll both be happy, and our daughter will have her smile back. And our grandchildren, she said with a smooth voice until it got louder with words of grandchildren. But the spectral projection disappeared after the sound of the slide door opened by a beautiful elf with refined features and a voluptuous figure, as she carries her sword by her side. She has long platinum hair, blue eyes, and near pearl-colored skin. Her attire comprises a gray robe with tattered edges, a white bikini top, and black short skirts with gold accessories. She wears a leg stocking on her right leg from just above the ankle to the middle of her thigh, while her left leg is bare save for 2 straps and black gloves. She also wears a jewel-adorned hairband and a necklace with what appears to be a sapphire. Seeing this girl who arrived, Shino smiled, ready for operation. Make them meet and get her interested. Hello Beatrix, how long has it been? Beatrix stared at her mother and spoke while sitting next to her. I've been fine, traveling, fighting, and eating delicious foods, she says like it was the most normal thing until talking about food, as Shino can tell a sparkles in her eye. It seemed her daughter likes food just like her father, who likes food as well, but Beatrix stared at her mother, who seemed to be tried, and saw her mother's sword seeing scratch on the blade, as she found out she must had a battle and asked her, "Hey mother, did you have a battle with someone or something?" Shino, after hearing her daughter day and the question from her status, she began to her about Nero. Well, for a month, I had a guess his name is Nero. This interests Beatrix, knowing her mother doesn't let anyone close unless she knows them. Until hearing more about him, I found him in a forest near Kyoto. He was good with the sword, but he was trying to master the kanata. It was difficult for him, but I came in and trained him. I'll say he is strong and a quick learner, although his previous life happiness was taken away from him, and now he pushed himself through and became what he is today, she said, as she gave Beatrix photos that Nero had of his old self, and now his new self also includes a picture of the person that took everything away from him, that how he looks before, and I must say he was cute. But I never imagined that he would look like this, and the white hair was something he requested me to help, and I must say he looks good with it. 1. Beatrix saw the picture and couldn't help but agree that his old look makes him cute and filled with happiness and love. For some reason she felt jealous someone has a nice life, but after hear that his happiness was taken away from him, And now she felt bad for him, and wondering what happened to him to change. She couldn't help but be curious, since they're now the same as she stared at the new look of him, and couldn't help but think it must have been something serious. But he still has his smile even if it's not like his old one, but they still felt the same. That when switching to the next picture that show a different male, but for some reason there was marker on it with the person with a mustache and say I'll kill you. She could see that this is the person that took everything. Shino saw what her daughter was looking at and began to giggle about Nero and told about him. Well, that man is named Ash. Please ignore the marker written. He told me he had to relieve him after destroying all pictures of him, and as you can see he now starts to marker him. It quite funny, she said with more giggles, but then gave her daughter a serious look, and warned her about him. Be careful with that man. He may seem as a kind young man, but after hear about him from Nero, he said that a disguise his true name is Beep. Beep, Beep, as he said to me, never trust anyone too much. Remember, the devil was once an angel, and I couldn't help but agree with him. But sadly the people he trusts believe in this Ash than Nero. But I believe in him, he's good person, and I know that he will find a way. 1. Beatrix. After hearing this person, she made a reminder never to visit Yusaka because she knows she'll try to introduce him to her, and she won't fall for it. But then again, she was surprised yet again her mother trusts this person. It seems her mother can see something in him. This made Beatrix more interested in him, and decided to keep the memory of his future business, and remember the name Nero, and said, if you put all your trust in him, then I might as well try to meet him as well. He sounds very interesting. You and him had a spar, which must mean he's strong. I want to learn more about him. Shino. After hearing that, she began to have a nice smile. It seems her plan has worked. Beatrix is now interested in him, and gave her daughter a warning about this man that will potentially ruin her life, and only looked up at the sky, say in the horizon, I guess one person can make a difference. I can't wait to see how much you will grow, Nero. Line break. Back with Nero in his cabin in the middle of the night. Nero was looking at the table where he can see his weapon Rebellion, and Muramasa with some packs of supplies to go to the mission that the factions have disregarded, and was laying on his bed as he began to sleep. Line break. Nero dream. Nero suddenly appeared in the middle of a wasteland, but strangely he saw two of himselves. One seems to be walking ahead, getting further away from him, while the other one was crouching down surrounded by a sandstorm that seemed to get closer to Nero. Location. For what purpose am I here? Nero didn't know what to do, but all of a sudden being covered by the storm voice spoke to him in spite of everything you've done for them, they hate you. Nero began to move his head around, and trying to catch these voices, but then again, another one appeared. You're moving into the darkness where your ghost haunts you. Nero just stood there, beginning to speak. Almost seems like the darkness is trying to consume him. I can still hear her voice inside my head. Rainer. It seemed like the voices were right, the ghost of his past, coming to haunt him again, the person that is he loved one time before. It seems her words were true, he got betrayed again, but this time by the people he cared for. I want to kill all of them, I want to tear all of them apart. All of a sudden Nero began to walk where his old self was crouching, and noticed the figure of Ria's, and everyone that betrayed him in one single person, changing every few seconds, tormenting his old self. Nero began to walk towards the figure of everyone that betrayed him with Rebellion in his hands, preparing to stab his sword on their back. But before he could even land a hit them, his other self that was walking ahead appeared before him, holding his sword, preventing him from stabbing them. This surprised Nero. He was angry, trying to push his sword through, but his other self continued to hold the sword and stopping him. Why is he protecting them? He had several questions, but then he noticed the face of his other self, showing him a face of, are you sure about this? Then all of a sudden, a tiny voice spoke to him, Issei Hayadu doesn't kill people. This made Nero stop and drop Rebellion as his other self began to walk away, continuing his path as a Nero just stood there. Then more voices came. All the things you've been thinking about, Nero, make me sad. That voice, where did he heard it from again? And now Nero finally, noticing that he's almost in the pits of the sandstorm, he began to slowly move towards direction of his other self, as more voices appeared. Some being people he knew, others he doesn't remember anymore, as he heard the voice of Saji. You're not a for what I know, Issei, you see things, you do things, make choices. Even when you win a battle, sometimes you encourage people, even me. After hearing that voice, he wanted to reflect on the things he has done before, and now by everything has done and said, I wish I have done things differently, and also the things I've said to all my friends and to people that are still helping me who I almost consider my enemies. Then Saji's voice appeared again, speaking to him once more. None of that matters, Issei, you're my friend. Hearing That voice made Issei have tears coming down his cheeks once again. Nero continued to move forward, but the big question was still in his mind. I don't know what to do. Those words still lingered in his head. Things have been changing his original plan. He's just been frustrated with everything. He trained his body, but what he lacks was his mind. Then all of a sudden, another voice appeared and spoke to him once again. You start by doing the hardest thing. You forgive yourself. After those words were spoken, more voices appeared. They were all compliments that made him happy. It was only natural for this to happen. Issei Nero was never someone who wants money or women. All he wants are words that could fill his heart with joy, give him happiness. But after hearing all those words, someone appeared before him near the end of the storm. It was none other than his parents. His father began to speak. It almost seems like they were trying to stop him. We are your parents, so please be our son again. Those words started to hit Issei in his heart. The betrayal hurt him so much. The motivation helped him push forward, but there was still a tiny bit of himself saying that he can go back. We can see Nero all of a sudden walked past his parents. Noticing their faces were that of shock and surprise, as they turn around to see his back, as he continues to move forward as he spoke without turning back. I had a father, his name was Credo. Nero finally remembered the voice that told him that he was sad. It was the person that treated him like a son when he was a child and was ignored by his parents, including remembering a certain girl with black hair and red eyes, who was a childhood friend of his, and not to mention his first love. Nero continued to speak, passing all the ghosts that haunts him. Sometimes to do what's right, we have to be steady. The more Nero moved, he was slowly getting out of the storm. Voices appeared, the ones that were encouraging him to move forward. And the voice he heard with his father figure, Credo, those experiences send you down a path. They made you who you are today. And if anyone is destined for greatness, it's you, son. You owe the world your gift. The memories began to flood. Everything he's done that were the right things to do. A vision of him going to try to save Office came to his mind, and he showed a smile. And all the people he helping, remembering the times he always helped people, and especially the traitors of the Gremory Preach. But throughout all of that, he never gave up. He continued with all those experiences he's done. Never once he gave up. So he continued to move forward and was out of the storm. But noticing ahead, his other self continued to move further away, and for some reason Nero was chasing after him. But that's not what he wants. As he continued trying to get closer to his other self turned to him. His face was that of his previous one, his face he had when he started his journey on the supernatural. But in his eyes showed serious. He spoke to him, the new him who is now known as Nero, and those words were, can you keep up with me? And for some reason Nero felt like his body was that of glass, finally breaking, and now feeling his body continue to run towards him with the face of frustration and with gritted teeth, trying to push past his limits to his other self, and spoke back again. Him, can you keep up with me? My ass. Nero shouted those words back, but spoke again, as he was getting even closer right back at you as he said those words. Something inside him changed. It was like wires connecting themselves, giving him a shock. As we can finally see, Nero went through his other self, but Nero did not stop and continued to run forwards, while speaking back to his other self. You're the one who's gotta keep up with me. After saying that, Nero continued to run forwards, as his other self had a smile and stopped near his tracks. It seems this dream was something that Nero created himself to see if he can continue to move forward, by looking at the Issei who is haunted, but wants to go back, and wishing that everything was normal, while the other one was one that was a representation of him, looking forward towards the future. And as for him who was in the middle, deciding on which path, one of them wanders forever without aim in world towards the future, and the other seeks the warmth of the past, somehow embodying and being devoid of hope by the ghost of the past. As Nero experiencing them, he didn't want to follow neither of them, and instead he wants them to follow him, who is now running ahead towards the horizon, and saying to his two other selves, it's the choice that make us who we are. We can always choose our path, and I choose to go forward. End of prologue. We currently see Nero waking up from his bed. His eyes that we like amber showing gentles are gone, and now with a touch of serious, he began to stretch and get ready for the day. As he began to do his usual jog around the city, so he left his cabin and got across the forest to end up to the street, and began to look around, while he walks to see anything new, and to hide his aura from anything supernatural, and he also bandaged his devil bringer arm to hide it. Nero, I'm done with my training and dealt with small dungeons around here, so I should be ready to fight that labyrinth, just that I need some new equipment, and also I have to talk to them, he said, remembering the ones who did not betray him. and also thinking of equipment to take with him to a labyrinth, but then all of a sudden he heard a voice. "Don't worry, I'm here for you," spoke a gentle voice. It was a girl with black hair and red eye on the right side, while left side was covered by her hair, as she seemed to reach out to a cat that stuck on a tree branch. Nero suddenly stopped in his track to look up at the girl, and for some reason, a memories flowed into his head, that girl, his first love and his first friend. He rushed over since the tree branch she was laying on was breaking, so in an instinct he caught her just like the past and said one word. "Nero, Karumi," he said the name of the girl who was surprised by being caught. And the person who caught her and called her by her name and stared at him. "Karumi, do I know you?" she said, looking at her supposed savior and staring at those amber eyes of his that remind her of a certain boy who saved her from falling from a tree just like this before. Nero, he immediately look away and curses him mentally for saying her name without thinking. Sorry, I just thought you were familiar." He said the truth because he was also curious. He could sense a sacred gear in her. Karumi, she just stared at him and tried to remember someone like him. But nothing came up, so she questioned him. "I see. Could you tell me your name?" Nero, well, I don't know if you'll believe me, but I am Issei Hayadu," he said nervously, not knowing what going to happen. So he quickly put her down in her 2 feet, as the cat was still held by her. Karumi stood there, her face stay in the same as the cat slipped away and ran off. She walked closer to Nero to get a better look, and couldn't help but let out a gasp. "Karumi, Issei, is that really you? What happened to you? Why is your hair white? What happened to your arm? Why is it bandaged? What are you doing here? And why do I sense you being a devil?" She began to bombard him with questions, and getting closer to him, making Nero panic and take a few steps back. Time skip. With a chibi Nero trying to calm down a Karumi who is bombarding him with questions and him trying his best to explain everything. Nero, so yeah, that's what happened to me, but I'm trying to get stronger right now. Nero explained to Karumi about everything when she left him when they were kids, and where he didn't see Credo anymore. And to the point he just put on a mask in front of his parents, even telling her about the supernatural, how he got involved by being killed by his first girlfriend, every one of his battles, and finally his battle against the beast of the apocalypse 666, and finally his betrayal. By all the supernatural, he was even surprised that the girls he risked his life for betrayed him, including Volley, who revealed that he was a she and her name was Valerie in the battle against 666, and confessed her feelings for him. But that love was fake and didn't last forever. And now him trying to push himself to get stronger to not lose anything anymore. Karumi, she couldn't believe what her childhood friend has been up to. She couldn't lie. She was angry that he had his first girlfriend and got killed. She wished she could meet that person and kill her herself. But she also wanted to kill Irina, since she's seen her before trying to steal her Issei. No, her Nero, I see that's a lot to take in. Nero, are you going to kill them? If you like, I could help you. I gotta punish Irina for touching my things. Nero, no, let them be. They'll receive their punishment when they realize that Ash is not the kind person that everyone thinks he is. He had a smirk. He couldn't wait till the day comes when Ash reveals himself, and how things will turn out. Karumi, I see, then I won't do anything. But I should thank that girl Sakvira for taking care of you. You need a light in your darkness, she said happily, but slowly gotten sad. She couldn't lie, she envied Sakvira for being what Nero need right now. Nero, he saw the expression of Karumi, and couldn't help but be sad, trying to remember how did he always comfort her, so he did one thing, and that was to have her head pressed against his chest to hug her. Karumi, don't envy Sakvira. She's not my only light, you're also part of it. When I was almost going to be consumed by the darkness, a light appeared for me, and you were part of it. Besides, I may be selfish, but I love you and her. I have always loved you. You were the first person to know the true me, you know. Karumi was in shock on what she heard and being embraced by Nero, and hearing his words of being part of his light. She had tears welling up and wrap herself close to him. Nero, I have to tell you something first. How I know the supernatural, and once I finish, couldn't hear what you think. Nero seen she listens on how he got involved with the supernatural. It's now his turn to hear how she got into the supernatural, and just rubs her head. Of course, if something terrible happens, believe me, I will do everything I can to help you. Karumi backstory. So then Karumi explained her story. She was returning home to school, and she was suddenly attacked by a stray devil, and she almost died, but was saved by a fallen angel, and she introduced herself as Arin, an ally of justice, self-proclaimed, and explained to Karumi about the supernatural, and the creature that tried to kill her was a stray devil, and asked Karumi if she wanted to release her sacred gears, so she could help Arin on killing stray devils. Karumi at that time, who had a pure heart, was determined to protect her family and friends, and including her special person Issei Nero, and she accepted and unlocked her sacred gear Zefkiel, and teamed up with Arin hunting stray devils in her pastime, and ranked up a kill count of 50 stray devils. But then one day would change everything for Karumi, because she decided to invite Arin to come over her best friend Sawa's house, and to which Arin accepted, and her reason was genuine. She wanted to invite Arin because she sensed that she had an aura of sadness, and could also tell she is suffering from some sort of depression, maybe something involving in Grigori, and her friend Sawa had a cat that Karumi thought that could snap Arin out of that state. Since animals can comfort people, however, as she walked up to Arin, and what Karumi saw had entered a state of horror, as the body on the ground that was supposed to be a stray devil was none other than Sawa, dead, as Arin was holding some sort of artifact, and it was none other than the sacred gear. Karumi despaired deeply, and quickly realized Sawa was the stray devil that Karumi killed herself. Things are going out of control. Karumi was going into a juggernaut drive state, but Karumi used her fourth bullet on herself before she would go juggernaut drive, reversing time and stopping her juggernaut drive, and returning to the moment where she started to be overwhelmed with despair. And it was then Arin revealed the truth, a plan which was to take every single sacred gear in this area and infected humans with some sort of virus to make them seem to be stray devils, and so Arin can make an excuse that she was killing stray devils that had sacred gear and collect them and give them to Grigori and receive praise by everyone in Grigori and to receive the affection of Azazel. After this, Arin thanked a horrified Karumi for all her work so far, and causing Karumi to black out to steal her sacred gear, because it was a lost Longinus type. Karumi woke up and was surprised on what she was seeing. It was none other than Credo, who was fighting Arin in that moment. Karumi yelled at Arin, "I'll kill you," causing Arin to back down and escape, since she wouldn't be able to handle Karumi and Credo in a fight. Credo was checking on Karumi if she was alright, but deep inside Karumi's heart, and swore to kill Arin for the betrayal of taking advantage of her once pure heart, and to prevent the virus to spread to other people, and turn them into fake stray devils, so Fallen can steal their sacred gears. Karumi was taken home by Credo, and being told to stay away from supernatural beings. But Karumi went on creating many clones of herself to make a huge information network, and is trying to get information about Arin to kill her. Karumi, and that is my story. You must feel disgusted by me. I did so many cruel things. I killed innocent people with my own hands. I thought I was doing something good. I believed I could protect everyone, including you, if I got to see you again. But I was weak. She began to tear up everything she had to do. She believed she was doing the right thing, but instead, she turned out to be a monster, killing people by orders of a crazy Fallen. Nero, he stayed silent. He couldn't help be sad for such a story. He didn't care that she killed people. It's only natural. You have to do it to survive. But to think she was technically manipulated now, that just pissed him off. That person, Arin, took advantage of her, and couldn't help thinking her story similar to him when it came to Rainer. So he did the only thing he could do: embrace her. I don't care what you did. Even if you have blood in your hands, you didn't know you were manipulated by her, and I swear I will help you to kill her. And because I'm here for you. Karumi, who heard Nero, couldn't help but shed more tears and wrap her arms around him to cry more. She built up all these feelings inside her, and couldn't release them, and now she can finally release all those feelings, the suffering, the pain, the despair she had to endure, that will finally be put to rest, thanks to her special person who would choose her over the world, and she knew that if he was to decide, he will choose her. And that was not a lie. Nero would choose her over the world. After everything calmed down, and everything began to relax, they then began to talk about other things, to not remember the suffering they had to endure, and just talk, normally, completely ignoring the supernatural stuff, until Nero had to explain his future plans. Nero, so far, I have to supply myself with weapons to get myself ready for the incoming battle in the labyrinth near Romania, he said, beginning to think where he should go to get supplies, since he doesn't know how long he'll be there, or how he'll come out from there. Karumi, you have 2 swords and you're good in close combat. I wouldn't recommend going in there without a gun. You're going to need a lot of firepower. If you said that place is dangerous, and you're gonna need it, she said, as she began to make something appear in her hands, being what it seems to be like a treasure chest, and hand it over to Nero. Nero, who is curiously looking at the box in front of him, began to open it, and what he saw was none other than two revolvers being black. As he began to pull the guns out, he began to examine them. Karumi, how did you get this? Karumi, I have connections in the dark part of the cities, and I do receive work as a hunter killing supernaturals. I receive these as a gift by a woman craftsman, even though I have my own. I thought I could give these to you like a present, she said, nervously scratching her cheek, not knowing if Nero would like to have a gun as a present, but she was completely off guard. But his next words, Nero, no, these are fine. I was actually thinking about getting some guns, or was thinking about creating my own. I actually learned a type of magic named transmutation, so I can improve it or make new weapons, while I go collect stones from that labyrinth. Thank you for the gift, he said, beginning to kiss her forehead as a thank you. Not knowing what he did actually put her red. Karumi, it's no problem, I thought you would like it, she said, blushing as she tried to not be seen by Nero anyway. You're going to see those people who didn't betrayed you, right? So what's after that labyrinth, she said, to put their attention somewhere else. Nero, yeah, after the labyrinth to Fortuna. I need to investigate and deal with the threat there because I have a feeling that something wrong over there. He doesn't know why, maybe an intuition or a sense of danger that will be born there, but did not notice Karumi have a face of concern. Karumi, Nero, are you 100% it's in Fortuna? She began to ask, and worried if it is then someone they know is in danger. Nero, yeah, it's is. Why do you ask? He noticed a concerned look of Karumi, and began to think that his intuition is right on the money. Karumi, well, that because of Credo, she said, not knowing if she should tell him. Nero, what do you mean by Credo? Don't tell, he's over there, he said after it took him a while to guess what she means by Credo and Fortuna. Karumi, yes, he's a knight of there and a captain of the order, and he has a sister there along with two people that are like siblings to them. But recently there another person that joined their family. That place is their hometown. But he said that something wrong in there, and I receive a message from him. It said I can't go back to what I was. That confused me. And now on what you said makes me even more worried. Nero, he knew she was right. If Credo lived there and has a family there, he wishes he could have met them and his sister. Issei. He turned towards her and holds her shoulders to calm her down and focus on him. Now listen to me, I'm going to Fortune when I'm done at the labyrinth, so can you wait for me? Karumi, she was in shock when hearing that Credo is in danger in his hometown, and not just him, but his sister Kiri, and Basara, Mio, and finally Ingvald, but hearing that he'll be there when he's done at the labyrinth, so she'll wait for him. But we'll send a copy there to gather information. Okay, I'll wait. But I'll send a copy and gather information, and when you get back you better call me and not go by yourself, she said, grabbing his jacket and looking at him at the eyes. Nero looked at her in the eyes, and with that look alone, made Karumi calm down. So she gave him her phone number, and they spoke some more before Nero received a text from Sakvira that everyone is there. When did he tell her? It was around the time where he was going to sleep and had that strange dream. So he was going to say goodbye to Karumi, but she has done something that shocked him. Nero, it seems it's time for me to go home and start that meeting with the ones that believe in me. So I guess this is goodbye. I gave you the address, so if I'm back you can come and see me. And thanks for the guns, I got a name for them, he said as he got up from the bench, but surprisingly Karumi also stood up and stared at him. Karumi, yeah, it's goodbye and thank you for everything. You're always there for me like in the past. Honesty, you're my special person, she said as she looks at him with a smile. Nero, yeah, in this dark world you are my light, and it's not just you. It's everyone that's been with me and still believing me, and I believe there's going to be more lights for me in the future. By the way, I've been meaning to ask you, what does the special person mean? And with that, hearing the word being part of the light again made her blush as she got closer to him, and pressed her lips against his, leaving Nero completely shocked. As for Karumi, she had her eyes closed and having a blush on her cheeks, until the kiss had to end, and with Karumi taking some steps away from Nero, almost heading on a different street before turning her head and said, pretend Nero is Shino. Karumi, what it means is that person is the one love. Yes, it's you I love. Issei, I do know. I love Nero. I'll see you soon, and please come back safe. By the way, that wasn't our first kiss. I did took the first one, and if you think Irina took it, then you're completely wrong. I'll be waiting for you to return home. After saying that, she left, taking a corner and disappearing like a shadow. As for our favorite protagonist, Nero stood there in shock. The girl he always loved in the past loved him back, and not to mention what he heard about stealing the first kiss. He always thought it was Irina, but no, it seemed Karumi took it away. Being there for a few minutes, he began to recompose himself, and something deep inside him felt light and happy. and with that he began to walk away to the direction of the cabin for the supposed meeting. Line break. The cabin. We see multiple people inside the cabin. They were all sitting in chairs or the couch as they all look at each other surprised to see each other, main being Saji, who is staring at Thor wife Sif, and his daughter Brewer. 1. Thor, Sif. 2. Brewer. Speak of Sage, he wasn't alone, the entire clan of Sona were here, except for Tsubasa Yura, who joined the Gremory peerage to be with Ash, which made Saji and Ryakusaka angry over her. Surprisingly, they were able to convince Sona to participate as well to rest of the peerage. 3. It wasn't only them but also Hades, Persephone, Artemis from the Greeks. 1. Hades, Persephone. 1. Artemis, and Laisha Astareth, who wanted to see Issei and see if he's alright. Laisha. The last group is Slash Dog, made by Tobio Ikus, and his girlfriend Sei Taoju, Natsume Minagawa, a fan of Issei show, Kauki Samajima, brother of Big Shigyun Nanaderu, the girlfriend of Kauki. Who would have thought that the quiet girl end up with the loud delinquent? Even me, the author, is surprised. I guess opposites attract. And now finally the two last member, Lavinia Rinai and Suzaku Himejima, the cousin of Akeno. Natsume, Tobio, Jin Sei, Lavinia, Kauki, Shigyun, Suzaku. And now our final person who has been taking care of our protagonist, Sikvira Gares, who is holding her phone and waiting for the arrival of Issei Nero. Sikvira. Sikvira hasn't seen Issei in a while, only seen when she brought Issei to this cabin, and now she has been told that is done hiding in this cabin, and ask for a building to start his business, and this surprise her that he moving on her Atlas trying to, but she happy for that. All of a sudden a knock on door was heard, and everyone was staring at it until she spoke up. Sikvira, you can come in, Issei, everyone is here. So no need to be nervous, she said as it a minute before the door opened. Everyone was in shock after seeing a white-haired boy with amber eyes that left everyone in shock except for Hades. It seems he was the only one that knew his appearance, but everyone else was completely in shock. He changed so much. Did he get stronger? What happened to his arm? And why does he look so hot? Nero, hey everyone, it's me, Issei. But you guys can call me Nero now. I decided to change everything, so I also started by changing my name. So please go ahead and call me that, he said, with a slight smile that caused almost a few girls to blush. Sikvira stood up and walked towards Issei, checking him out and said, Issei, no, Nero. What happened to you? What happened to your arm? Why do you look so different? Answer me right now. Time skip. So Nero explained to everyone about the change of his appearance, and his hair was just dyed, just so he could walk freely without anyone recognizing him unless he talked. Also explaining about his new powers, explaining that he still had a few of the leftover power by Scarlet in office, where he also received a regeneration by literally getting stabbed by a tree branch, but also trying to use the demonic energy left by the evil pieces, and cause his arm to mutate into a demonic arm, but sadly couldn't hold so much demonic energy, so he released the rest of his power onto Rebellion. After that he discovered a new type of magic, with 4 elements to slay dragons, and also his new guns that were given by Karumi, but strangely after talking about her lots of girls were staring at him coldly. That made Nero scared. Nero, so yeah, that's everything, there was more. But he wasn't sure on telling them about his dream, and the voices he heard about power. He's try his best to ignore it, until he was slapped by Sikvira. 1. Sikvira, so you accidentally stab yourself with a tree branch and almost died by an explosion amount of demonic energy. And lastly, you had a second childhood friend Krish, that you haven't talked about. Huh. She was angry by the carefree attitude he said about those things, like they weren't that big of a deal. And she wasn't the only one angry. A lot of girls who have feelings for the new white hair boy were also given him stare. Nero, well, I didn't think it was that important since it from the past, and it felt nice reconnecting old tides. And I had no idea about the regeneration, it came like it was natural. Although it's pretty slow for now, he said, as he a sweat dropped from the intense stares. Laisha, well, I will admit your regenerating is not normal, but from what I can guess is it's that arm you have. What did you call it? Devilbringer, it a interesting name. And will you use it at Ash, she said, as wouldn't hesitant on helping Nero. Sona, I knew it, you haven't changed, you're going to take revenge, and you're going to need our help to make it happen. Huh, she said, not trusting Nero, since she believed Nero only wanted the girls back to satisfy his desires. Saji Sona I know I mean Nero, and I know he isn't planning on taking revenge on the girl and Ash. He turned towards Nero to question him. You know something about Ash, I will admit he off like he came out of nowhere, and Riaz started falling for them the rest of the girl. They quoted that he had all the perfect things they are looking for, Saji said, which sounded true. It's like he was planning on it. Nero, he could only smile and knew his best friend figured it out, and said, you're completely right Saji. I knew you could figure it out. It's just you said this was all planned out against me. It was to weaken me with the dragon fall, by making the girls to betray me, and to take all my power away, to not have a disturbance like myself around. He looked angry that the girls believed a stranger with great looks over him, someone who risked his life for them. Sona, she stay quiet and think about it. And everything sounded like a perfect plan to get rid of a powerful threat like Nero off the board, and to have the enemy hide themselves with the allies. But Sona couldn't believe it, the man she was fallen from is the enemy. The lie there, no way Ash could do that, there just no way. Nero, I see he almost had you in his fingers Sona, he's dangerous. So I recommend that you calm down and stay away from him, and do not let him catch you, or you'll be in his fingers, and make the clan's citry fall, he said to calm down Sona, as she starts taking deep breath. Thor, if he's so dangerous then why don't we just kill him instead? Should be easy if we sneak attack him when his guard is down, and no one will stop us, Thor said confidently with his hammer to kill this positive threat. Nero, it's too rash and everyone will be turning you into their enemy. So all I can say is keep your loved ones away from him and for every girl to not get close to him either, he said seriously. Artemis though think we can't protect ourselves, though think we are just princes waiting for rescue. Then though is a fool to believe in that, she said angrily, thinking they can't protect themselves from just a single person. Brewer, yes, do you think we weak? Huh, if so then fight us right now. Then she said as lightning starts crackling around her ready for a fight. And she wasn't the only one, all the girls gave a look like, do you really think we're that weak? Nero, no, I do not consider you weak. It's just that the enemy is a rotten snake. Sure, he has the power of Delia the Red Dragon Empress, as well as Scarlet and Office. That's not what I mean. He's someone that will try to take advantage of you and gather that information to your enemy. And finally he'll bite you and slither around you like the rotten snake is, because we all know who he is, an old enemy who is supposed to be dead, and his name is Beep. Beep, Beep, 2. A moment of silence was in the room. No one spoke, everyone had a terrifying face, the most being the females. Some of them let out some gasp, and covered their mouths almost feeling like throwing up. That person is him, and he was doing things to the people they know. Just thinking about it is disgusting. One person couldn't take it, and it was none other than Saji. He quickly ran to the bathroom and threw up. Everyone else had terrifying faces, except for Hades. Reason why is because he knew he was alive. He tried to get his soul but no results. Lavinia, she had her face completely shocked, thinking what her little sister was doing with such a man. She really wanted to warn Valerie, but for some reason she couldn't. She was angry at her for abandoning Nero, and if she told her she wouldn't believe her. You can't be serious. It's really him. Her voice sounded terrified. Tobio, damn it, he really is a snake. He's sneaking and ping information to our enemies. Why didn't I notice? He let out a shout with anger, frustration as a punch, the wall leaving a small crack, as Jin was watching his partner. Sona, for her and other hand, was completely disgusted. She was almost going to give herself to that man, and if she did, she would be broken. If she knew who he was, she wanted to warn Riaz, but if she said anything they'll think of her as a traitor, and that man will use his influence to destroy the Citri house. I can't believe it. I almost committed the greatest mistake. Nero, I know how everyone feels, but you can't say nothing. If you do, he'll catch on and make things worse. So I recommend each of you to start gathering your forces and prepare yourselves for anything, he said calmly. Everyone was surprised by that, and it was true. They all had to keep the guards up against him, but not too much to draw his attention. Hades, I see you grow up, boy. That's why you're preparing yourself when the day happens, am I correct? Nero, you're right. That's what I'm doing. I'm trying to get stronger as fast as I can. So I'll tell you my future plans. I'm planning to make my own business. But before that, I'll be taking some of those missions that everyone left disregarded. The first is the Labyrinth in Romania. In that place, it has great material and powerful monsters. Nobody knows what lurks below the 100th floor, so I'll be the first one to get there. Next would be Fortune. Last time I check on those reports, our spy die, and not mention people important to me are in there, he said, explaining what he's going to do and to also get ready to go to school to finish his 3rd year. Sona, after hearing the explanation, she stood up and stared at Nero, and bowed. I'm sorry misjudging you. I can't believe it. It's so hard to believe it. but I'll support you, not just me, but the Citri clan as well, she said, as the rest of her periods also stood up and nodded as well to support him. Saji had that smile, and someone else was watching him with love in her eyes. It was none other than Rhea. Thor, how talk to my army, as well as some Valkyries, who haven't felt for him yet. Will do everything we can to maintain Asgard. I hope you can support us, Nero, he said, as his family also nodded as well to get the support of Nero. Tobio, say no more to us, wherein will be your information on what's going on. Be sure to visit the dog bar, you got that, he said, with a smile as well as the group nodded. Lavinia was the only one who is thinking until she stood up. Lavinia, I can. No, I mean Neokun, I'm sorry for what Valerie has done to you. I should have been a better sister. She began to lower her head further. She wanted to apologize to the boy because of her she couldn't keep Valerie in line. But then all of a sudden, Nero, it's not your fault, Lavi-chan. He did everything he older sister would do. This is her choice. So there's no need for you to apologize. Besides, I'm angry at her, not you, so please raise your head and show me that beautiful smile. He spoke gently. That smile was the same one he gave in the past, so warm with kindness. It just made Lavinia blush. Trying to hide her flesh cheeks, she turned away, but couldn't help but admit that Vali is an idiot. Why betray someone so kind like him? And look at him, he changed so much. He's no longer cute, and it's just hot. Unknowingly, Lavinia, and let her fantasies take away. A few members of the dog were smiling at that, except for two, those being Natsume, Suzaku, who gave her a jealous look. Suzaku, I would also like to apologize for Akeno acting. If you ever need my assistance, don't be afraid to ask, she said calmly, also feeling guilty on what Akeno did. Nero, like I said to Lavinia, I don't blame any of you, I only blame them. My head is towards them and the factions, but I am not going to help them nor do anything unless it involves with my loved ones, meaning the people here are the ones I care for now, he said, with confidence without knowing his actions cause another uproar. All the girls who heard his words began to have flushed cheeks, except for Saji girlfriends Momo, Raruko, including the two older goddesses, who are married to the respective husbands. Rhea had her eyes closed and placed one of her hands on her cheeks, and letting out fufu we're such joy. Natsume had a happy face, but you can see the hint of pink in her cheeks, as she couldn't help but giggle. Lavinia, on the other hand, let her imaginations go wild. As for Suzaku, place one of her hands on her chest, feeling it pounding rapidly. And, lastly, our two goddesses. Artemis was completely red, muttering things such as womanizer. As for Brewer, can I help but wonder what is this feeling in our heart beat as rapidly, and whenever she looks at the boy, she couldn't help but ret as her mother had a face of happiness, thinking I'm going to be grandma soon. While Thor began to look at the boy, thinking if he wants to take my daughter, then he has to fight me. 1. Hades, that's sweet of you, boy, but I do not need it of your kindness. If that's all, I will excuse myself, Hades said, but Nero placed a hand on his shoulder and said, Nero, before you go I have something to tell you, Lord Hades. I believe it will come in handy, he said, with a kind smile, and a good idea to get the god of the underworld to support him. And how can you do that, you may ask? Well, pretty simple, help Hades with his love life. He knew Persephone, it's probably not interested in his bones form. So giving Hades, the god of the underworld, advice, as well as showing him a picture of a form he should take to make Persephone fallen in love with him even more, and to spice up his marriage life a little, and now he took the new form he was recommended. 3. His new form was very attractive. All the girls had to admit it looks good on him, but one person in particularity had her eyes in the shape of hearts. She couldn't help but examine every part of her husband, and unconsciously, she began to lick her lips, quickly grabbing Hades by the shoulder, and drag him to the magic circle. But they turn around and look at Nero. Persephone, thank you very much, Nero. My husband looks wonderful on this farm. I feel like I'm falling in love with him 100 times over. You have my support as well, including my mother, if you ever need it. I wish you good luck in your journey now, if you excuse me, she said, kindly teleporting away with Hades. The room stayed quiet. For some reason the men all gave a salute to Hades. He's going to need it, because they believe that she's not gonna let him sleep in a while. Give a salute to Hades. 39. As everyone was speaking about supporting Nero, everyone began to leave, only leaving Laisha to be the last one to say goodbye. Except for Sakriva, who decided to stay with Nero for the remainder of his rest day, before he heads off to the Labyrinth, to finally set her feelings straight for Nero. Outside the cabin, we currently see Nero speaking to the last guest to leave, and it was none other than Laisha Asterisk. Laisha, I would like to spend more time with you, but it's about time that I retired, she said calmly, while Nero just thanked her for coming to see him. Without further ado she gets up from her place and said, I hope we see each other again Nero-kun. Nero of course we'll see each other again Latiasan, he said with a smile. She didn't like the idea of leaving him alone, but she had to leave. Leisha thought of a way to keep in touch with Sodot. Leisha and Nero, do you have your mobile phone? She said half shy because of the question. Nero yes. Why do you want to make a call? He said curiously as he took out his phone. Leisha could you lend it to me for a moment? She said shyly and emberedly. Leisha just took Nero's phone, and then took out hers and started writing something on hers, and then she wrote down something on Nero's. Leisha and Nero I wrote down your number on my phone. And I also wrote down my number on yours. She spoke in a raising voice a little, in order to prevent her shyness from making as her voice falter. I'm leaving. I'll talk to you later, she said to disappear in a magic circle quickly. Nero only smiled because of the scene, but a mysterious fox saw this with a little malice, thinking of a prank to play. Inside the cabin. At the moment where Nero walk into the cabin, a woman appears with her arms crossed in a frown. Sikvera Nero, she said, looking at the present with annoyance and with his face of seriousness that she always gives to everyone. Nero hello, he said with fear when he saw her faces of seriousness and annoyance. Sikvera, you've been getting pretty close with other girls, haven't you? She said, not forgetting about Karumi. Nero, what are you talking about? I just get along with them. It's not like we're lovers. Nero thought she would get angry, but seeing how she takes out boxes of pizza and 2 soft drinks from a pocket dimension, which levitate next to her, and leave them in kitchen, and she instantly hugs the white hair boy. Sikvera, I see she was very important to you. It wasn't she? Then I don't mind. She said after separating the hug. I missed you a lot Nero, she said, looking at the white hair boy, and then caressed one of his cheeks. Nero and I do you section, he said, hugging her again, but a malicious smile appeared on a mysterious fox face when it saw this scene. When separating from the hug they both embrace each other, where Sikvera puts her head on the shoulder of Nero while sitting on the sofa while hugging each other. As the white hair boy was thinking about the labyrinth, as Sikvera noticed a little fox who appeared and approached the backpack, and pointed at the pocket, and then runs to the kitchen, which made Sikvera confused, but she decides to ask her beloved Nero. Sikvera Nero-kun, what's in your backpack? Nero, nothing, just my clothes and some things ma. He couldn't finish, and remembering the numbers of the girls he received, nothing love. Let's go to the kitchen, he said, pushing Sikvera butt. Sikvera, are you hiding something from me? She said, look suspiciously at the white hair boy. Nero, of course not love. We are going to eat something. I guess you will also be hungry, he said, trying to avoid the issue without realizing he's calling her love butt. Sikvera was no longer ahead. He looked for her with his eyes, and then found her, but she was opening a certain part of her backpack, and Sikvera, Nero, what does this mean? She said, raising her voice. Nero, well, Tat has an explanation, he said, stuttering, as Sikvera looked at Nero waiting for an answer. But in that she sees the little fox again with a pizza in its mouth, which points to a place, where she turns to see the white hair boy phone, as the little fox leaves again. The white hair boy realizes where Sikvera was looking as she tries to take his phone, but not even with his quick speed, could be an angry girl, since Sikvera took it faster and began to check it. But there was nothing suspicious as she was about to give it back to make it. Fox cough 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 contacts cough cough, it said, pretending to choke with the pizza, and Sikvera quickly removes the cell phone off Nero. The white hair boy only trembled because of a mysterious voice, and saw how Sikvera got a dark aura, and threw his phone on the couch. Sikvera Laisha, she said in a small voice. Nero, what happens love? He said, scared. Sikvera Natsum Minagawa, Lavinia Rinai, and Suzaku Himajima, Artemis, Brewer, Laisha Astareth, Karumi Takasaki, Shino Kajiro. She said it, screaming and taking the neck of the white shirt. Nero, everything already has an explanation, he said, scared. Sikvera speaks, said authoritarian and a stern look. The white hair boy only proceeded to tell her how he met them without omitting anything at all. But she only held her serious look. In addition, she was somewhat annoyed by the fact that Shino wanted to match her daughter with him, but decided to let this go, not without first telling him and making things clear. Sikvera, well Nero, I will let him be by just for today. But if any of them call you again or text you by message, tell them to come and talk to me first about certain matters, and that you didn't forget Nero that you are mine, she said, looking at the white hair boy in the eyes in a dark way. I was clear to you Nero, answer, she said with a lot of authority in her voice. Nero eyes, I belong to Sikvera Gares, he said in a military pose, and trembling a little. 1. Sikvera, alright. Now let's go to the kitchen honey, he said with a smile that scared Nero. Sikvera knew exactly what was happening. but she decided to save it for later. Nero had his charm in his own way, which captivated many women, but that isn't important right now. Instead, she would focus on settling her feelings with a Nero. Nero and Sakvara only went to the kitchen to bring the pizza and drinks to the living room, where they both ate and drank quietly while watching a series together. For Nero, it was a relaxing moment to be like this, until Sakvara got closer to Nero until she was on his chest lying down, where the white-hair boy only hugs her without taking his eyes off the series. Almost 1 hour has passed. They watched quietly until in the series there was a scene where the protagonist passionately kissed their partner. When they saw that scene, they both stopped watching the series to now see each other. When they saw each other, they both blushed, but did not look away. They only got closer and closer until both lips came together, giving each other a tender kiss that transmitted love. The white-hair boy only falls on the sofa, because Sakvara had pushed it, and they continued with the kisses. Both were happy for this moment. The kisses continued, and continued where little by little it was increasing in intensity. In those kisses of love, now they were also accompanied by a desire of each other. While Nero's arm slowly went down her waist, the blonde-haired only raised a hand that went up against his shirt, where she gave some scratches on his chest. The two separated for a moment to look at each other again, but this time with desire. Sakvara, Nero, let's go to the room, she said to get up from above him and help him. She quickly climbed the stairs, while dragging the white-hair boy by the hand. And with that, I'll leave it to your imagination. Sorry, not good with lemon. In their night of pie, and they didn't stop there. They continued for almost 3 more hours, until they both fell to bed exhausted by all that they had. Both were naked, looking at each other with a sheet that covered them up to the waist. And Nero, thank you for loving me, and for being there for me, Section. Sakvara, thank you for letting me be in your heart. No matter where you go or this affection, I will always be by your side, she said to kiss again with a lot of love, and then separate. In a moment she took his hand to her belly, and began to rub it. If I get pregnant, what do you want her to be called? Honey. Nero, I don't know, but I know we'll give her a good name, and I don't think we'll have just one. Maybe there'll come more, he said to hug her by the waist. Sakvara, then we have to make an effort, my love, she said to kiss Nero and cuddle more to him, and look him in the eyes. Good night, Nero. Nero, good night, Section, he said to kiss on the forehead, and little by little, both fall asleep in the arms of each other. Elsewhere, the ex of the white-hair boy, things turned out well for them. But again, out of nowhere, they began to feel their feelings getting out of control. Only this time their heart also made them uncomfortable. That day was, so to speak, one of the most sentimental and at the same time annoying. But in the same way as the other time, everything they felt dissolved, leaving only desalination in their being. Bewildered by this, they made the decision to consult about this with someone. The days became a week. We currently see a white-haired boy and a blonde-haired girl who are in front of each other. The boy was wearing clothing of adventure with his sword Rebellion strapped on his back, along with his new revolvers Donner and Schlag, ready for the battle of his life in the Labyrinth. Both young people showed their affection for each other through that kiss that only conveyed love. After a few seconds they both separate. Sakvara, you'll be fine. Honey, what will you do while I'm not by your side? Nero, don't worry. I'll be fine, I promise you. I will come back. We spend more time together before I go to Fortuna, and after that I was thinking of traveling the world and training so more. You know that my current strength and magic are very high, but not enough. They have Delia. The moment she left me, she took all the power I ever had. In addition to the fact that there was Scarlet in office, they at least tried to take every trace power that has to do with them, leaving me as I am now as a human devil dragon. I really don't know what I am, he said sadly. He honestly wanted an answer. What is he now? Is he still human by appearance? Is he a devil with this arm? Is he a dragon with this power? But something inside him keeps telling him I need power, giving him a little headache. But he took it off and turned to her. In addition, we will keep in touch by phone. I will send you photos of the places I visit. Maybe at some point we can travel, the two of us. Sakvara, it's okay, but I don't want any woman to approach you with secondary intentions. Understood? Nero, you know how much I love you, and I won't give that love to anyone. My heart will decide who I love and who I will protect. Despite being true, she knew that the woman that came to the cabin all had feelings for him. Know that those feelings will grow more if they spend time together. So she deducted on her she will approve. She won't let anyone hurt his heart anymore. Even if she has to share, she wants them to love him. Sakvara, it's okay, but I'll still miss you a lot, not having you in my arms and not feeling your comfort. Nero, I know it's also difficult for me to be without your caresses and pampering, but we will still love each other forever. Section. Sikvera Nero, she said to kiss the white hair boy again with Payan. Both joined in kisses full of their love and in a strong hug, where it lasted a few minutes. Then separate as Sikvera goes to have the door behind her back, and she watches Nero get ready to leave by calling something. Sikvera, I love you very much, my Nerican, she said with a beautiful smile that he only showed him. Nero, and I love you too, Seekshin, see you later, he said with a smile of great happiness, and with his hand saying goodbye to his beloved, until he shouted up in the skies, let's go Ryudomaru. After shouting that, something appeared in the skies. It seems to be a little red dot, but then it grew in size. Its appearance was an enormous flying ship. As it heard the call of its master, it used the magic circle to teleport Nero inside the ship. Sikvera, seeing how her boyfriend left, only wish him the best, and that nothing bad happens to him. But if something happened, she would not hesitate to go to the labyrinth without a caring about his exile. After the departure of her beloved, the blonde-haired girl decided to talk to a few girls, wanting to know their feelings for her beloved Nero. Inside Ryudomaru deck, we currently see our white-haired protagonist staring off the skies. He was lucky that Ryudomaru didn't abandon him, instead stick with him, even accompanied him in a small little journey to Kyoto in the path of the sword. A small little boat and a young man traveling now, that is a weird combination. Nero, I'm glad to have you here, Ryudomaru. Even if my power isn't like before, it seemed you got some changes. Maybe it's because of the new powers I've gotten. Well, in any case, we can't use Apocalypse answer arms, but we'll figure something out. Something even stronger, he shouted out. Even if he's not strong like before, he'll get there and surp it. As a response to its master, Ryudomaru let out a whistle of a boat, and did not tell its master that the new form was because of his Devilbringer, and the desire of power coming from Nero himself. Nero, now then, let's go to Romania to the labyrinth, he said, shouting, some more excited for the new adventure and trials he has to face to get stronger, and to get more power. We currently see our protagonist Nero sitting on the deck of Ryudomaru, checking the files about the labyrinth, different monsters from that darkness. Reading it carefully as Nero took a drink of water, as he saw the supposed dangerous monster they think or saw in there. Nero, damn it, the faction are useless, like come on, they only went to the supposed 65 floor, right? How can they guess that strongest monster are there? He let out a loud sigh, and lay on the floor as he stared at the night sky. Be from close them. Nero remembered the time they called him useless, worthless, powerless, and finally deadweight. Those words haunt him more than Rainer could ever be. His biggest fear was those words that hid his inferiority. He beat himself harshly for feeling powerless to prevent the event that have unfolded around him, such as the death of Asia, the game against Riser, and more with the Gremory group, and felt useless on not doing things better. And when they took everything from him, Nero wanted to get revenge for taking away his supposed sacred gear, but the moment he lost, it was also a moment of helplessness. Drake revealed that he was a she named Delia and punched him like a doll, and said that he is worthless, and from that point on Nero had a permanent reminder that he is powerless, and now he'll take any opportunity to prove to himself that he isn't deadweight, and now is motivated to prove them wrong. Nero had his eyes open as he felt that Ryudomaru stop all of a sudden, before getting up and stretching his body, as he take a look to see that they arrived, and see a patrol of vampires guarding the labyrinth. Finally, I'm here. Thanks a lot, Ryudomaru. And go back to the dimensional gap and keep yourself away for Scarlet and Office, you got it. Then heard a boat sound as Nero smiled, and got near the deck's edge and jumped style Dante. Hayadu Mansion. The ex-harem girl were currently satisfying their future husband Ash with their body, and trying to get full with him, as Ash was given a face like he was filled in luxury before they took a short break. Ash is a young man with black hair and blue eyes with average body weight, and now he was smirking as he saw his women being marked by him as he pets his partner Delia. To think I get to have fun with the women I love is amazing. I wonder why couldn't the Banished do anything with such a lovely ladies, such as yourselves. 1. Delia, let's not talk about that worthless ex-partner of mine. He's nothing compared to you, she said, enjoying the pets. Delia. Tiamat, yeah, he's not true dragon, he was a wimp who couldn't even take us. But you, on the other hand, it's amazing. Our dear Ash, she says, trying to push her S on his back. Tiamat. Office, I regret him ever being my first friend, with no change in her expression, only the blush in her cheeks. Asia, me too, it would have been better if you came earlier, she said with a blush on her face, thinking what if she made friends with Ash early than with Issei. Riaz, yeah, if you were brown, you could have done everything better than he can ever do. Yumi, that's right, maybe if you are around I would have revealed my gender earlier, then hide it from the deadweight. She thinks since Ash is better with the sword than Issei, Yumi. As they spoke, they continue to trash about Issei Nero without knowing that he's getting powerful by the passing days, and they're doing nothing but enjoying last, and haven't started training against. Then you Chaos Brigade named Outriders group and organization that is causing damage against the factions, and the one that will stop them is the one they've been trashing about. Ash, that's right, he's nothing compared to me. I have everything he has, and I can do everything better. Let's do it again soon. Our marriage will come, right girls, he said, turning to every single girl who gave him flushed cheeks. All the girl, yes, we'll be together forever. Ash mind, yeah, we'll be together forever, thank you Issei-chan. I couldn't have everything without you. And with that, and I could be heard in the door, one of the girls decided to open it, and it revealed Venelana, Graphia, Mishabeel, Lady Phoenix, Lady Citri along with Goddess and young Valkyries, with eyes filled with desires, and Ash near it too. Well, he's also been having relationships with them as well, and couldn't help but just grin happily. Grand Meeting Hall. The leaders have been discussing about the recent attacks of the Outriders, how they striking important bases, and are able to move without getting captured, and they're one step further against the faction's plans. Azazel, damn it, even if we achieved peace, there's always problems to deal with. Honestly, they haven't started getting this bad when we had that deadweight around. Michael, you're right, I wonder if this is a punishment. But it doesn't matter, we got rid of someone that is useless. Ash is the better pick for being the Red Dragon Emperor. 2. Surziches, you're right, we have to deal with these problems ourselves, and we better do it fast. My little sister's wedding is coming soon and I wanna be there. Auden, you're right, but these people are just very troublesome. But I have a question, Hades. Why do you look like that? With that said, everyone turned to look at Hades and his new appearance. Everyone had to nod and say that that appearance looks great on him. Hades, I don't have to explain it to someone like you, are my own business. And they weren't the only ones, there was 2 representatives of the yokai and the vampires, since their respective leaders are busy. From part of the yokai is Sun Wukong and the vampires is named Gustavo. They were having a conversation about the banished and disgrace they threw away before long, a magic circle. And they're Gustavo's ears, so he had to respond. 1. Gustavo, hello, who is this? Communication, Lord Gustavo. Please call reinforcements, call anyone, we are being annihilated here by this monster. Gustavo, what are you talking about? Eric, is that you? What is going on? Is something happening in the Labyrinth gate? A recommunication, please. We need reinforcements, all my 30 soldiers are dead. Oh no, he's coming, please save me. No, wait. Please don't kill me. I'll do anything. His voice got louder to the point where everyone in the hall could hear him. Communication, bang 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 bang. What are the sounds that could be heard, causing everyone to freeze hearing those gunshots until hearing your voice, and hearing that person Eric scream of terror before going silent and breaking the connection. The only word they heard was jackpot. Labyrinth gate. We see Nero sky driving down towards the vampires until taking a position with Rebellion and using a sword technique he calls Helmbreaker, that is a down slash towards a near vampire. A huge impact was heard for everyone to hear and check what happened before seeing a crater with a still vampire and a young man with white, holding a strange-looking sword. Everyone was watching the scene with confusion as they the vampire who is still standing like a stone before one call him out. Vampire8, hey Jack, are you okay? That guy behind you, so kill. He could continue until seeing something horrifying. What Issei impact everyone, they all had a face of horror on what they saw. What they saw was that the name Jack was moving in half. Yes, he was cut in half from the bones and flesh, as blood slipped out like a fontina, until the young white hair boy was checking his sword, as he wiped the blood away with a slash, as it spilled down on the floor. Nero mind, a normal person wouldn't be alright killing peoples like this. I don't feel anything, no sympathy, shame, guilt, I got cold. He was so concentrated on his thoughts that one vampire start walking towards him with no fear, except if you count his legs trembling. Vampire23, hey, the hell did you do to Jack? Seeing that he was being ignored, he let the angry rush in and start get ready to swing his sword at Nero, but I'll make you tremble in Apo. Donner bang. The sound of a gunshot was heard, and the bloodbath began where Nero shot his bullet at the 6 vampires in the chest or head with a hard struggle of missing shot that weren't hit their mark perfectly and missed, but still killed them, because the bullets were sliver bullets. Nero was fully concentrations on killing his enemy with Donner and Schlag. After being nearly hit with a magic attack, Nero slip onto the ground. Seeing a group of 10 coming after him, he decided to make a magic circle and use transmute at the ground, catching the group's feet and getting them stuck. As Nero inhaled some air as fire gathering in his mouth, Nero fire dragon roar. A large stream of fire was releases towards the direction of their stuck vampires before the fire, enlarging it itself further, and strike the vampires with such high power fire that incinerated the up body of them into charcoal. Nero turned towards the 18 vampires that are left before getting ready to fight. He let out a cough, and the reason was because he's not used to using fire dragon roar, mainly being that is not a dragon anymore, and has no dragon aura, just using a magic base attack that hurts when release the attack. In order to get the aura of a dragon would be doing the same thing as Siegfried has done, kill the dragon. As the vampires saw how Nero was coughing, they immediately charged towards him, but immediately were sliced from the head, while turned his head to the side to notice a couple 3 vampires, planning to teleport away, either to get reinforcements or spread the word about him. Without any hesitation, Nero immediately gunned them down before they can escape, and then started to blocking attacks with rebellion from another group of 9, seeming to take a formation with 3 mages on the rear, and 3 tanks in the front, with a strike force comprised of 3 who seemed to be better in combat. Nero always getting a rough time with the 3 strikers, and the mages who started by attacking him from the rear, putting him to the defensive, immediately getting pissed off. Nero stabbed rebellion onto the ground and cleanse his hands together, as a bright light emerged from his hands. He was using another Dragon Slayer magic attack, Nero White Dragon Holy Ray. When releasing the light, it released multiple holy projectiles at the vampires, hitting different parts of their bodies. But the tanks were the lucky ones to take those hits and block them. As for the mage group, they were all sadly injured, while the strike force were completely hit with a direct hit. As for the 2 who seemed to be leaders, were also hit and completely caught off guard, but feeling the sting of the holy attack that they never believed someone could use. Reason was all thanks to Ascalon still having holy attribute help them gain it, but the consequences of using it leaves him out of Dragon Slayer magic attacks for the next day. Not letting this chance go, Nero picked up rebellion and quickly dashes forward and killed the striking force, before taking out Donner and shooting the tankers, and using his demonic energy from his right arm to power his bullets and break their shields, hitting their shoulders before getting butchered and cut in half, before noticing the mage group and just shooting them off, leaving one alive and grabbing him by the neck, and starts doing a movie reference. Nero, I know what it's like to lose, to feel so desperately that you're right yet to fail. Nonetheless, he said, approaching the 2 remaining vampires, and the one he's holding from the neck with his right hand being his devil bringer, desperately trying to make Nero to let him go while rebellion was hold from his left hand. It's frightening, turns the legs to jelly, but I ask you, to what ends dread it, run from it, destiny arrives all the same, and now it's here, he said before snapping the vampire mage neck and dropping him before getting closer to the second command, as the commander seems to have a magic circle and contacted someone, but let him so he can play, and finally arriving to the vice commander vampire and setter, should I say I am. 4. Vampire2, please don't do this, I'll be useful to you. I will tell you everything. He couldn't continue as a rebellion jammed itself at the vampire's chest as Nero started to pierce hard with his 2 hands, before pulling it out and walking to the last remaining vampire, being the commander. Vampire 1.0, no, he's coming. Please save me. Nero steps get even closer as he places rebellion behind his back and starts picking up 4 swords from the dead guards. No, wait, please don't kill me. I'll do anything. But was too late. In a desperate struggle, the commander started to get up and run away, turning his head back to see Nero, but was his biggest mistake. A shot was heard, as Nero shot the bottom hilt of the sword, as it starts flying and jam in itself on the vampire's shoulder, piercing the wall. Desperately trying to pull it out by moved his other hand, but that was also quickly pierced to the wall. Similar to his legs, as Nero seemed to get closer, seeming to wanna end this by getting closer to him. Nero, with Donner up and pointed towards the vampire's heart, said one single word, jackpot. A loud bang was heard, and before long everything was silent, as Nero started walking further away from his bloodbath, and started heading to the Labyrinth gate and entered the darkness, while more gunshots were heard, and screams of monsters were heard before going silent yet again. Labyrinth gate. Hours later. It'd been an hour, and then reason was because of preparation and soldiers. As everyone arrived, they all had expressions of horror and amazement, as they all saw the dead bodies of the vampire, who were victims of the monster who caused this tragedy. Gustavo was run around with vampire guards as they saw how each of them died. Their head were gone, some were cut in half. The worst one was Jack. He was literally cut in half down from the skull to the legs, and the crater was like someone landed on the ground, which means the monster who done this came from the sky. Surziches was checking out the 10 vampire that seemed to be trapped in the ground while being impacted by a powerful fire that incinerated the up body of them, leaving the legs intact. Surziches was frightened by the fire powers that done this. Then he noticed a fallen angel checking the damage with artifact. Michael was doing the same check on the damage but was left surprised after feeling the aura of holy magic that made him feel surprised and fearful of the person who cast such powerful holy power, and same like Surziches, a fallen angel with an artifact, was checking damage and detaching anything. Azazel was watching as his subordinates examined the battle of any trace of power, and checked his tablet plate showing him serving information, causing him to be lost of words. Zeus was amazing by the destruction. Whoever did this caused he to wonder if this was the Outrider doing, and the question is why. Odin had a face like he wishes that this never occurs towards Asgard, thinking of his citizens being butchered like this is a bad taste in his mouth. So he watched Thor on his opinion, but he probably thinks he could take this monster down. Sun Wukong was read the Kai, and what he sensed was a terrifying. It was like seeing a demon that screams power, and it's growing fast. Thor was surprised by Nero's strength, but just examining the destruction he could tell Nero need more training, and if he desire it then he'll try Nero to be more strong. Hades was smiling. He's been collecting the souls of these poor souls that come across the demon path. 2. Inside the labyrinth, we currently see Nero smashing, slicing, shooting his way past every single monster in this labyrinth. He did, however, stop to face one to get experience on how they move, and what their weaknesses are to get stronger by letting his body move on its own by its instincts. And now he has currently around the 65th floor of the labyrinth, where right in front of him is a monster named Behemoth, and behind him blocking his exit were a group of skeletons named Trom soldiers that he had seen around the 38th floor. And now he was getting ready to fight with Rebellion on his right arm and Donner in his left. He began to start taking care of the skeletons, completely ignoring the Behemoth, which made it angry, and started getting ready to charge, while Issei completely massacred the skeleton army to the point where he accidentally stepped on some bones and breaking them. Then all of a sudden the Behemoth finished its charge and started trying to ram him down, but then it stopped. Reason why is because it was being held by the horn by Nero Devilbringer, as Nero jumped in the air while holding the Behemoth and smashing it down to the ground, leaving a huge impact on the ground and having half of its face in it. Then Nero threw it up in the air until then it came close to the ground, and gave it multiple punches around its body. But one final move would end this all, and it was none other than a jam from his fist towards its head, basically snapping its neck and being launched off the bridge. Nero bye-bye, he said, while pulling out Donner in the direction of where he tossed the Behemoth, then bringing Donner close to his face to the point where he imagined bowing off smoke from the barrel. Heat, scum. Grand Meeting Hall. We're currently with the factions all surrounding a table, each of them having great expressions, but they weren't all alone. They included some of the heirs of Devil family, who are part of DXD, and now each of them didn't know what to say or how to start this conversation about the massacre that happened near the labyrinth. But one person stood up, and it was none other than Azazel. Azazel, all right, listen up everyone, a massacre? Or should I say a bloodbath happened at the location of the labyrinth. We do not know who was the suspect, but this person carries a lot of power, or maybe they were just an organization. But even so, their strengths could be seen by these images, he said, showing off all the images of all the damage that Nero has done. All the younger heir and members of DXD were completely shaken, and completely left a shock on what this organization or person has done to a group of vampires. Some of them even passed out, some of them were discussed it to the point where they could almost throw up. Ash, wow, why would they start attacking that place? From what I know, there's nothing special about that labyrinth, than just monsters. Asked the new Red Dragon Emperor, fair curiously. Michael, from what we know, that labyrinth has been there longer than we have seen. Although we're pretty much glad that those monsters never get out of the labyrinth, but their numbers are so many there. Office, I've been there once, because I sent strong people in there, but I couldn't teleport inside. It seemed to have an anti-magic field inside, preventing anyone to easily pass through. So you must go down and face the monsters. Scarlet, I don't remember what down there, because my dreams have never reached there. That place is filled with mysteries. Scarlet. Sun Wukong, he let out a sigh and began to tell everyone what he sensed when they arrived, in the feeling unnerve him everyone. This may be off topic, but I recommend us not to fight that thing. You do not know what I felt. It's Kai what is demonic, it screams of power. Its desire is power, and if I'm right, that thing is down there getting stronger. Surziches then will have to do the obvious, well, wait until that thing comes out and kill it. I can't be one person, it's impossible. How can someone have draconic power, holy power, and the strength to kill a person with a sword? Azazel, I think we should start preparing countermeasures against that thing, and whatever that thing is. It uses a gun as well. We found silver bullets in the bodies of the vampires, so this person knows their weaknesses. Valerie, it doesn't matter. All we have to do is just crush him. It's probably just a small fry that just knows how to fight and knows their weaknesses. Valerie. Valerie is right, and let's not forget we have Ash with us. He can easily take down this person. Elmenold, yes, Ash, he will kill this person, right? He will avenge my people, right? Ash, yeah, that person has nothing against me. Besides, I'm the strongest, and I'm here to protect you all. Everyone had a smile from that. This was the hero, the leader of DXD, and the fiancé of many women. That used to be with Nero, but now his name was forgotten, and it's just known as Banished, being his new nickname. But what they don't know is that a Banished is the person that killed the vampires, and in the future, will kill many other people who dare try to face him. While everyone was praising him, people who were allied to Nero began to look at each other and slowly showed a grin. These fools will know who did this, and how strong he'll become, and maybe he will become a legend. Inside the labyrinth, we currently see a white rabbit jumping up in the air to avoid something before a loud bang was heard that hit the rabbit on the head. As the one who killed, it was none other than Nero, but something was different about him. His eyes that used to be amber were no longer there. They were nothing but red eyes, and his hair seemed to be even whiter than before. Nero, damn it, those leaders are nothing but liars, he technically yelling in this abyss of darkness, and his reason was normal. He made it to the 100th floor, and it turned out that they're a lower level in this labyrinth. I should have never trusted their information. Like, seriously, this place might have 200 or more, he said, as you continue to move forward. Well, you're probably be asking what happened to him. Well, let us go back a few days later, before Nero arrived to this floor. Week before, we currently see Nero sitting on the ground wall checking on his supplies, as he's been collecting several minerals and material from this floor. Everything was great, but something was missing, something very important, and it was none other than food. Nero, damn it, I'm gonna starve to death down here. There's nothing to eat, and if I go back, they'll probably be guards waiting for me. What should I do? Talking to himself, he didn't notice a monster coming right behind him, letting out a roar. As Nero turned around, he immediately began to transmute and start transmuting himself down. As he gave the monster the middle finger, Nero went down enough the point where the monsters can never reach him. The further down he went, he felt something and felt the room suddenly got brighter. He quickly decided to transmute the ground big enough to see what's going on, and what he saw left him speechless. What he found was a rock the size of a basketball that radiated a beautiful light. This mineral was buried and fused with the surrounding rocks, and released the liquid, a beautiful and mysterious stone. The mineral emitted a darker blue light than aquamarine. This stone was actually known as a divine stone. The divine stones were rare crystals, and considered one of the greatest historical treasures in the world. The angels considered them a lost legend. The divine stones were created when a large group of magic came together and crystallized over 1,000 years. They were between 30 and 40 centimeters in diameter, and then, over a few hundred years, their saturated magic was liquefied and poured back into the earth. The liquid they secreted was known as ambrosia, and it healed all wounds. It could not regenerate missing limbs, but it supposedly extended one's life, as long as it continued to drink it, and it was also known as the elixir of life. The legend said that God healed the masses with the same ambrosia. Nero, he was laughing, a national treasure in his hands, ha ha ha. I think something like this would fall into my hands right now. Honestly, Michael would want this, but too bad it's mine. We currently see Nero laughing in joy. If the faction didn't betray him, he would have maybe given it to the angels. But you know them. But slowly that happiness disappeared, as a grumble was heard from the stomach. Nero, damn it, I haven't eaten yet. He began to take out his backpack to rechecking if he still has some food, but no, and his stomach wasn't helping. I should have packed more food, but I didn't expect there was more floors below. Nero, who is currently thinking on how to get more food, his options were limited. Either he returns back and restart going down, or he has to find food here. But there is no food in this place. Wait a minute, their monster couldn't eat them. But he remembers something very important. When a human eat the meat of the monster, but his stomach growls again. so he ignored the memory, and so he began to transmute the area big enough to be a cave until finally reaching the top, and was greeted by two monsters, fighting each other, that being a rabbit and a bear. When those turned to look at Nero, they gave him a growl, but that didn't work against Nero, who took out Rebellion, and threw it jamming itself into the skull of the rabbit. 1. Seeing how his lunch was brutally killed, the bear started acting with its instincts, and was going to run away, but sadly, you can never run away from a hungry beast. Nero, you ain't go anywhere, you'll be my food. He began to run while dragging the bear's face hard on the floor. Then Nero hit him against the wall again and again without stopping. Finally, while he was still holding it, he joined his demonic power and destroyed the bear's head with his devil bringer. After finishing his beat down on the bear, Nero took out a test tube made of stone out of his pocket. He quickly drank the contents and felt his body recover. Once recovered, he put the bear's body next to the rabbit, as he picked up Rebellion, and continued to drag the bodies. Few minutes later, in the cave where Nero had been for the last few days, you could hear the noises of a person chewing and swallowing desperately. The little light emanating from the stone showed the body of a white bear lying on the ground, as well as that of the white rabbits, and in the middle of those bodies was Nero eating the leg of one of the rabbit and one of the arms of the bear. Nero, he munching and swallowing the meat. Imagine that in all this time the bodies of these two bastards remained as I left them. It's lucky. This way I have more easy food. Nero drank some of the water from the stone to pass the raw meat he was eating. After so many days, he didn't care what it was as long as he could eat. Nero was look at the bear's corpse. Man, I really gave you a beatdown, but hey, that what you get when you fight the unknown. Although your meat and that of the rabbit tastes disgusting, this is better than nothing. It was at the moment that Nero voraciously devoured the bodies of both monsters that an abnormal phenomenon affected his body. Nero an intense pain suddenly attacked him. He felt his body being destroyed by the immense pain. The word erosion would perfectly describe the horrible feeling Nero felt. The pain intensified with the passage of time. Nero, what's going on, gwa? The immense pain was corroding his whole body. In his desperation, Nero began to hit the ground hard due to his pain, and quickly put his trembling hand in his pocket to take out a test tube made of stone, bit the edge of the tube and drank its contents. The recovery water began to work, and the pain calmed down, but after a short time the agony continued. Nero higiga, but why isn't it worked all? His body began to convulse from the pain. His body was throbbing. You could even hear those sounds coming from his body. However, in the next moment, the healing properties of the recovery water and Nero regeneration began to regenerate his body. When his body healed, the pain returned, and it would have to be regenerated again. Even the water that's said to heal serious wounds could not mitigate the effects the regeneration ability was suffering. Nero began to scream in pain and began to agonize on the floor. The pain was so great that he began to hit his fist and head against the ground again and again. Even so, Nero endured that immense torture for several minutes. After all, Nero didn't plan to die. His body began to change. First, his dye-white hair turned even whiter. Then his eyes turned red. Then his muscles and bones strengthened more than before, and crimson lines appeared all over his body. This phenomenon was known as muscle overcompensation, a process through which the body passes when its muscles are trained. These are broken by their intensive use, and in order to compensate and adapt to the effort, more muscles and stronger are created when the body recovers. The same process happens with the skeleton. Nero's body had begun to go through this phenomenon. Even though Nero had read in the books of the library that eating the flesh of the monsters was suicide, he had done it because of the hunger he felt. This meat was very toxic to humans for a simple reason. All of them have magic stones all over their body, which allows them to have extraordinary physical abilities, thanks to their magical power. Now, while Nero was dying of pain, inside the body this magic had begun to strongly cover his muscles and bones. This magic was called special magic. This did not require any magic circle or enchantment to be used, in addition to the fact that it used to be unstable. This type of instability would be fatal for humans, since from the inside, the poison would corrode their body, destroying all their cells. In the past, anyone who consumed demonic meat would end up shattered into pieces and dead. Right now, it would not be uncommon for Nero to end up dying to eat that meat, but what prevented this from happening was Nero regeneration ability, and the water known as ambrosia. These were things that kept Nero alive. Because of this, his body was destroyed and healed over and over again. Due to the constant destruction and restoration, His body was strengthening at an incredible speed. Destroy, destroy and repair again. His body changed as he convulsed. This was as if he was being reborn. A birth ceremony where he threw his weakness. A metamorphosis, in which Nero screamed as if he were a newborn. Unknown location. We currently see space filled with nothingness and endless darkness, with nothing but just solid rock-like meteors floating around. And in one of those meteors stood a figure. It was none other than a woman, but it was hard to tell how she looked like. But the woman had a smile like a crescent moon. She could hear the scream of the hero who she fought against. And she's been watching him ever since the day she was sealed by him, and when he was betrayed, when he rise again and obtain new power and power. She felt long ago when demons existed in this world, but now she was focusing on what's happening now. Her beloved hero is getting stronger, and she was excited. She couldn't wait till she has the strength to break herself free, and to see her beloved hero. My dear beloved, you are the only one who is able to fight me, Scarlet. Office, you two are fools. I will not disregard this hero. As much as I want him for myself, he seems to gather new women to repair his heart. I'll be part of it soon, and I will not throw it away like you two instead. I'll keep it close to me. Please wait for me, my dear beloved. I'll be coming very soon. With that said, the woman's aura began to increase to flood this world. 4. When the convulsions stopped, Nero collapsed. His hair was whiter than the dye he used, and the crimson lines formed on his body. Now it was similar to the monsters that plagued this level. Nero was lying on the ground without moving for several seconds, until little by little, he began to move his right hand. Then his eyes slowly opened and he began to get up. Once he was seated, he opened and closed his hand, again and again. Nero, he let out a sigh. Wow, I'm still an idiot. I don't know why I thought that. Because of my regeneration, I could eat the meat of these monsters without problems, but I was so hungry that I couldn't resist it. Nero began to check his body, but to his surprise, his body was better developed than before. It even seemed that he had grown a little more. However, the strangest thing of all was that he felt that his body was overflowing with power, in addition to the fact that he also felt that he had something strange inside. I had a strange feeling of cold and heat at the same time. His conscience concentrated and looked at the crimson lines on his arm. Nero, what the hell happened to my body? These crimson lines are like those of the monsters of this level. How strange. Will this be a side effect of eating monster meat? Maybe I should concentrate on my power. Maybe it might tell me something. He couldn't believe what he was feeling. His body felt different than ever. He felt stronger, like it increased enormously. But it was not only he could feel like abilities were mixed in. 1. Before, his powers wasn't good enough, but from his stupid actions, his power went above than expected. Now his power must be around a level of a mid-high class devil. In his maximum, he could expect a super devil class. It was a huge advance, in addition to the fact that before his ability of transmutation to its full potential, but now it was better and stronger, leaving more the possibilities of what Nero abilities the transmutation evolved to. Nero, how did I get stronger so fast? No. More importantly, what is this feeling? Magic manipulation. Could it be that I can manipulate the magic directly? No, that's impossible, or isn't it? To clarify his doubts, Nero extended his hand and concentrated. The crimson lines emerged again in his body. Little by little, the feeling he had had before returned, and he concentrated it in his right hand. Then Nero decided to transmute, and surprisingly, the ground rose easily. Nero, so that's how I thought. This feeling is the movement of magic. Now I no longer need spells to perform magic. Apparently eating these monsters has given me that strange ability. I have more skills. I should try them, but I'm still hungry. Nero continued to eat the bodies of the rabbit and the bear, until he literally left them in the bones. Only the bear's fur is left. After that he rested a little, before getting up and leaving the cave. Once outside, Nero decided to concentrate and feel the new power and review it and verify what new skills he had. Nero iron stomach. Oh, I see. So because of this ability I didn't feel pain again when I ate the monster meat. I was already saying why my body didn't hurt again after eating. Well, now I won't have any problems eating that meat. The next skill is Gale Claw. This skill must be that of the bear. Let's see. And now how is it used? Maybe yes. Nero focused the magic on his hand and imagined that his hand had the same claws as the bear. The moment he did it, he could feel it. He moved his hand towards a wall and saw how deep marks remained on them. Nero, wow, now I have the same ability. This will be very useful to me. Good. Next skill, flash step. He smile and think about ideas. This won't be very difficult to imagine. First he made an image of how the rabbit took his steps. The important point was speed. going so fast that you could only see a blurred figure. He began to run, and just as the rabbit did, he left residual figures due to the enormous speed with which he moved. Issei, well, I can move quickly like Yumi does. Now the next skill, air dance. This skill must be from that rabbit. But that bastard never used it in our battle, so I don't know how I can use it. I'll have to improvise. Nero was thinking about how he could use that skill. Just knowing the name wasn't enough for him to discover that he was doing the skill, but he couldn't think of anything. Nero, if only that stupid rabbit had used it, I wouldn't be having so many problems. What if it does what its name says, but? I don't think it will allow me to walk in the air. What if it allows me to create something to walk in the air? Something like a platform. Immediately Nero began to imagine a transparent platform in the air, and jumped on it to test it. He was suspended in the air as if he were levitating. Nero, I got it. Who would say that eating those bastards would give me these skills? Ha 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 ha. Nero was laughing for the first time in a long time, but without realizing it, his laughter had attracted some monsters. They were the same types of wolves with which the rabbit, which was now in his stomach, had fought before. They were a group of 4 wolves. Nero, he saw them, but instead of worrying, he smiled. Wow, it looks like some mutts want to play. He licks his lips. More food for me then. Nero was concentrated, while he kept looking at the wolves approaching. At that moment 2 wolves threw themselves at him, but Nero only activated his ability Gale Claws, and with Rebellion and Quick Cut, both wolves were split into several pieces. The other 2 wolves watched the show without knowing what had happened. Nero walked to where the pieces of the wolves were, picked up one and put it in his mouth. He chewed it and swallowed it as if it were the most normal for him. Nero, it still tastes as disgusting as the others, but hey, you can't do anything. Now let's see what new ability I have. Begins to concentrate and review his new skills. Nero, so lightning field. What a disappointment. Before I saw them throw lightning and I thought I could do that, but I can only cover myself with electricity. Well, it's better than nothing. In addition, it seems that since they're the weakest in the place, you do not raise my power at all. She then began to shrug his shoulders. At least they will serve me as food. The wolves were shaken when they felt Nero's gaze. This was because he was seeing them as simple food. His look was the same as the one the bear had given him. Nero directed his murderous instinct towards them while smiling in a sinister way. The wolves realized the danger and tried to flee. Unfortunately, Nero used Flash Step, and in a few seconds he stood in front of him. Nero, he smiles gently, but it was terrifying. Were you guys going somewhere? Nero transmuted the ground and made 2 thick and large arms appear that imprisoned them. The wolves tried to get rid of them, but it was impossible for them. Nero approached them and with a quick movement, he tore them apart. Nero, well, today was a great day. I got new skills, I quickly am getting stronger, my power increased, and I got a lot of food. I also discovered that if I eat monsters, I can increase my strength, power, and get new skills. Yep, it was a great day. Nero picked up the pieces of the wolves and went quietly to his cave. A few days later, it's been several days since the discovery of eating monster meat. Nero had continued to go down levels, one after the other. From the level of the tar, a total of 50 levels had descended. With his skills, weapons, and his ambrosia, he had advanced quickly. Although there was a time when his life was put at stake, thanks to the ambrosia he had managed to get out alive. One of these cases was when I was on a level that had the ground covered in poisonous fog. There was a 2 meters frog rainbow colored that spit out a poison that caused immense pain, very similar to the one he felt the first time he ate monster meat. And there was also a moth that spread scales that caused paralysis. Fortunately, for that type of case, he had installed in his molars small chewable containers that contained ambrosia. Thanks to that, he survived at that level, and there was a feast of moth and frog. It is worth mentioning that when Nero placed the chewable containers on their molars, he could notice that his teeth had begun to change, but he did not give it much importance and continued to move forward. Another of the times he had problems is when he reached a level that looked like a dense forest, how he was in an underground labyrinth. This left him perplexed. Nero thought it was the most unpleasant place so far, because its temperature was extremely hot and it was densely humid. The demons of this level were a huge centipede and the living trees. The ones that caused him problems were the 100 feet. While exploring, one of them fell in front of him. Nero immediately took out his gun and shot at point-blank range, but he didn't expect that every time a section of the body was hit, it would separate. Fighting one of these centipedes was like fighting 30 monsters. The firearm was burning because it was being used very frequently, and it took him a while to recharge it. In the end, I ended up using Rebellion Air Claws and his Devil Bringer to finish them. That battle made him understand the weakness he had when using his firearm, so he set out to improve his reload time. As if that battle were not enough, after I killed the centipede, several of them appeared and Nero faced a hard battle that took him several minutes. After killing the centipedes, he ran into another type of monsters. These were the tree monsters that were very similar to the trees of RPG games. Their underground roots would come out underground, and their vines acted like whips for them. However, the greatest feature of the trees were not these trivial attacks. When they were in a hurry, they threw the red fruits that covered their heads. There was no offensive capacity in them. After killing them, Nero was curious and decided to try them. At that moment, the world stopped around him. He was left without moving for several minutes. This was not because the fruit had some paralysis effect, but because it was extremely delicious. It was sweet and fresh. The red fruit was comparable to a watermelon. Despite its shape and size, it wasn't like an apple. The displeasure Nero felt from that annoying level disappeared. His determination to continue descending to get even stronger and return to Sekvira arms. After weeks of just eating that horrible monster meat, that was the first sweet thing he tasted. When he reacted, Nero began to laugh loudly for a few seconds. Once he stopped, his gaze was that of a beast looking for his prey. He dedicated himself to hunting all the trees that were at that level. When he was finally satisfied, he continued with his journey, although he left these monsters extinct. 3. In this way he had advanced the 150 level. Right now Nero was inside the shelter that he had done at level 150. He was concentrated on checking his powers. Nero, it's not bad. From what I see, I'm no longer the same as before, he said, while looking at his Devilbringer in more than one way. Nero's body had continued to change slowly, to the point where it was now visible. His nails had become claws, and his Devilbringer had begun to change and get stronger. Nero, I guess this is because I don't have stable control of my power, or maybe my body is simply adapting to my situation, and is changing to help me survive. He let out a sigh. The truth is I have no idea, but it's not like it's important. Nero got up from the ground, put his guns in the holster of his red coat, rebellion in the holster of his back. This time he had made a bag with the skin of another monster, and there he only put some grenades that he had made, as well as several containers of ambrosia. The reason Nero was getting ready was because he had discovered a strange structure at that level. It was a space around the area that was creepy. At the end of this peripheral area, there was a huge steel doors. Nero, is this a way out? No, there's some stairs over there, he said as he let out a sigh and looked at the huge steel doors while he was going slowly but surely, and when he arrived, he began to analyze it in addition to noticing the two statues with swords in their hands. That gave him a very bad feeling. Well, I have no idea what to do, and for worse, those two are obvious that they will get up and attacked. Brother, look, after such a long time, we finally have company. Upon hearing that voice, Nero fixed his gaze on the top of the statues where he saw two pairs of eyes. One pair was blue and the other red. I see. This time the voice came from the statue on the right. What if we amuse our guest? You're right, we have to be good hosts. What do we do? While the two creatures that were on the statues were talking, as Nero began to lose his patience since all he wanted was to pass. But with so much talk, he could not even hear his own thoughts. Let me think, we have to come up with a good strategy. Nero puff-sighed the white-haired boy as he moved from side to side. Brother, our guest just sighed, said the blue-eyed creature, sighing. And what is that? Asked the red-eyed creature. It's something that humans do when. Nero, I'm already tired, exclaimed Nero. Are y'all never going to shut up? In case you haven't noticed, what your guest wants is to come in, so can't you get out of way? Well, our mission is to defend this door, said the red-eyed creature. Indeed, so we can't let you pass, ended the blue-eyed creature. Both creatures jumped to where Nero was. When looking at them, the boy noticed something quite curious. Despite having a rather chunky body, the enemies in front of him were missing their respective head, but it seemed their true head seemed to be on the tip of the handle of the swords they held. 2. Nero, this day couldn't be weirder, sighed Nero as he took out rebellion. Being taken by surprise, Nero had to evade two descending cuts from the brothers, observing with a grimace how a shock wave was provoked when each attack hit the ground. Moving on to the attack, the white-haired boy attacked the red brother with a frontal thrust, being surprised to see how the one mentioned with an iron block endures his thrust. Moving aside, Nero narrowly dodged a horizontal cut by the blue brother. Nero, at this rate we will never finish, said Nero, activating his Devilbringer, while his eyes turned red. Throwing a right hook, Nero managed to break the blockage of the red brother, taking advantage of those seconds to make multiple lunges that sank into the torso of the aforementioned. Using his spectral hand as a shield, the white-haired boy stopped the attack of the blue brother, Growing once again, his spectral hand completely enveloped the body of his enemy, raising him and throwing him against his red brother, watching funny as they both crashed into one of the walls. Both brothers tried to stand up, staggering for a moment, and losing their balance for a few seconds, that Nero took advantage of activating his air dance. The white-haired boy, moving at a speed impossible to follow for his enemies, found the weak points in the defense of the aforementioned, attacking with force at the aforementioned points, ascending, descending. Horizontal and even lunges cuts were the types of attacks that the brothers were receiving. After a few seconds, Nero finished his attack. Going back a few meters, he observed the result of his attacks. The bodies of his enemies were in a lousy state, full of deep cuts that had apparently torn off pieces of meat of considerable size, since he could see some bones. Suddenly he saw how the body of the red brother fell heavily to the ground, releasing his sword. The remaining brother, and to Nero's surprise, took the sword of his deceased brother, joining both swords by the tips of his handles, forming a double-bladed sword with a steeled edge, rising with vigor. The remaining brother threw himself at Nero, attacking with quick cuts that produced wind and fire. That new ability in the swords of his enemy caught Nero's attention, since he could cover his swords with energy, but not give him some elemental affinity. But that was not an excuse to let himself be defeated. "Nero, let's try this," said Nero, taking out his Muramasa, managing to block and counterattack more easily compared to when he only had Rebellion wielded. Blocking a diagonal cut, Nero made 2 diagonal cuts in response to his enemy's attack, observing how this retreated in pain. "Nero, it's time to try something," said Nero as he relaxed his breathing and mentalized his goal from one moment to the next. The white-haired boy disappeared using his air dance. The next thing that could be seen was how the body of the remaining brother began to shake violently. After a few seconds, it could be seen that it was what caused that. It was Nero who, using his starburst stream, quickly hit the body of his enemy. But there was something different. The aforementioned technique was running at a much higher speed than it should have been when he tried it with Shino. After about 30 seconds of continuing to cut the body of his enemy, the white-haired boy stopped, watching as the remaining brother fell to the ground, and the sword separated, falling to the ground, digging into the act. Nero was about to go on his way, but then, "Don't go, take us, we've been waiting for a long time." Surprised, Nero turned and saw how the red sword was talking. "Yes, an eternity," the blue sword spoke this time. "Waiting for someone more powerful than us. To someone who could control us. My name is Issei," the red sword appeared. "And I, Rudra," the blue sword continued. "Agni Rudra, take us with you. We will be of great help to you," said both swords at the same time. 1. Upon hearing that, Nero thought about it for a few seconds. "Nero, okay, but on one condition." "Rudra, which is it?" "We'll do whatever it takes." "Nero, shut up." "Agni Rudra, as you wish," both swords answered. Nero took both swords and began to make several cuts in the air, watching funny as the blades of the swords were covered with fire and wind respectively. Joining both swords, forming a single one, spinning on itself, produced a small whirlwind of fire. Separating both swords, throwing cuts of wind and fire with enough force. "Issei, impressive," congratulated the sword, but upon hearing the voice of the sword, Nero slammed the heads of the swords against each other, producing a small metallic noise. "Nero, no talking," said Nero, looking at the swords without receiving any answer. "Better." Well, Nero was holding Muramasa to slice the body of one of the brothers, where he took a magic stone that was the only thing he found, and when he approached it to one of the grooves at the huge steel doors, this glow, Nero understood what the mechanism was. So he approached the second brother to extract the other magic stone that he placed in the other groove, and when this glow, he heard the mechanism opened. Once this mechanism finished opening, Nero pushed completely only in case there was an enemy. "I would need to take it out," but instead at the end of the room there was a large cube. "Nero, is the prize a simple cube?" he said, very confused. But before he decided to close the door, he looked at the cube, where now he seemed to see a kind of the lump form that strangely spoke to catch his attention. "Who there?" said weakly, being that Nero was surprised to see that that lump was actually a person, and when he looked at it well, he noticed that it was a girl between 12 and 13 years old in age, with eyes red as blood, and her figure looked worn out, completely emaciated. However, he noticed that if you didn't look at that, she had a nice face. "Are you a human?" said weakly, seeing Nero looking at her so. She looked back at him. "Nero, I'm sorry to bother you. I'm leaving now," he said, taking the door of the place to closing it calmly, as the girl, when she saw this action, went into a huge panic and tried to scream. But her voice had not been used in years, so much so it was difficult for her to speak, so some incomprehensible murmurs were heard, attracting Nero's attention. Girl, wait, please save me, she asked with great difficulty. Nero, I won't do it, he said coldly and not caring about the life of the person at the end of the room. Girl, why please, I will do anything, she said very desperately, and that was noticed by Nero, who were attentive. Nero, that's obvious, you are suspicious, we are at the bottom of the abyss. If someone is sealed in this hell, it must be someone extremely dangerous. In addition to that, confinement in which you are is the only thing that holds you back for sure. If I release you, it would be a nuisance, or you would end up being a stone in my way, he said, leave the girl in shock at such a response, being almost on the verge of crying when thinking about not being saved. Girl, no, I'm not bad, wait, I was betrayed, she screamed, waiting for him to help her. And those words in despair came to the mind of Nero, who only thought she was betrayed. Logic dictated that she was dangerous or something like that. But when Nero heard that word, he felt like couldn't move around. He couldn't leave her there. Nero, just for this time I will ignore the logic. He let out a tired sigh to walk in the direction where the girl, who looked at him very surprised, and when she saw that he arrived where he just sat on the floor to look at her, listen to me carefully for this occasion. I'm ignoring my new self, and I'm acting like my old self. So, if you want me to get you out of that thing, you have to explain to me why you're locked up here. Do you understand? You only have a few minutes to talk, he said, since he wanted to continue his trip. The girl had heard it, but she couldn't talk yet. Full of surprise, she analyzed his words, stopping when he said his new self and his old self, which made her very curious. Nero, hey, you're listening to me, he screamed, a little angry at not hearing the girl explaining anything to him. If you won't say anything better, I'll go, he said, already getting up from the place in the direction of the door. And she noticed that he wouldn't hesitate for a moment, implying that he would go through that door. So she hurried to talk. Girl, I am an ancestral vampire, she said, and Nero looked at her, hoping to hear more. I was granted a great power, with which I worked very hard for my country. But one day all my servants told me that they didn't need me anymore, she said, and Nero remembered that it was something similar to him with the Alliance. Something that made him frown. My uncle became the king. I had no problem with that. However, he considered that I was dangerous by my powers, and since they could not kill me, they sealed me here, she said, quite tired, noticing how Nero was in front of her, while he was looking analytically until he relaxed his gaze. Nero, so you're a vampire princess, aren't you, he said, and the girl only nodded because of the overexertion that was talking after so long. What do you mean? They couldn't kill you? Girl, automatic regeneration. My wounds heal immediately. Even if I am decapitated, I will not die. Nero, wow, that's incredible. Is that your great power, he said, quite surprised since he has a regeneration, but not at that level yet. Girl, no, I also have direct manipulation of magic, so I don't need to do magical formations, she said, explaining the skill. Nero, mind, she was born with the ability that is interesting, is different from me, since I got by eating monsters. Girl, I beg you, help me. Get me out of here, she said very desperately, almost in tears, and Nero looked at her with a calm face. Nero, mind, she didn't do anything wrong. First they used her, and then they discarded her. It's similar to me, only that she was locked up. What should I do? Memory, help anyone who needs help, be a good kid, he remembered those words, and he looked at the girl. Nero, transmute, he said, starting to transmuting the cube that has great resistance. So he increasing the amount of power when transmuting, causing the cube to begin to erode before such an amount of power that it was receiving, and seeing that only one push was missing. So Nero increased only a little more to achieve his goal, being that his cube practically melted completely, and the girl being incredulous to be free. On the other hand, Nero breathed heavily when he released so much power from a single sitting. So he only sat on the floor while recovering the air. In the transmutation, he had used more than half of its magical power. Nero, that was something new. I hope there is no one more sealed in this place. I use more than the half of my power. Well, that doesn't matter anymore, he said, taking out a bottle with the ambrosia to recover a little faster. But before he could start taking it, his hand was held by the girl's small hands. Even his gaze met hers when I heard her speak again. Girl, thank you, she said weakly as she looked at him, and he didn't know what to say until a memory crossed his mind about the vampires. But it reminded him of Elmenold, so he just ignored that memory, and took the bottle with ambrosia with his mouth, and began to drink it, leaving the girl who was holding his hand, and when he finished drinking it, he felt much better, although that wouldn't recover all his magical power, but made him felt better. In that moment of thought, he looked at the girl, being that he thought and wondered, what did she eat all this time? Or hadn't that she hasn't eaten or drink anything here? being that surprised he thought that she had not tasted a bite or even drank something, and when he was about to ask her, she was the one who spoke first. "Girl, what's your name?" she said as he kept grabbing Nero's hand. "Nero, my name. Oh, it's true, I haven't told you, my name is Nero." "Just Nero, what's your name?" he said, a little interested. "Girl, Nero, 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 Nero," she murmured many times, wanting to engrave the name of her savior very deep in her soul. And when she felt satisfied, she spoke. "Give me a name." "Nero, do you want me to give you a name?" "Don't tell me that you forget your name," he said, thinking it would be logical forget something like that after so long. But then he saw how she only denied that. "Girl, I don't need my old name anymore. I want you to give me a name," she said with longing eyes, and Nero started to think of something being very difficult to name a person. "Nero, you know you're asking me for something very difficult." "Ah," he sighed as he thought, and a certain image came to his mind. "So what do you think?" "You," he said, looking at the girl. "Girl, you, she repeated several times, considering that that was her new name. "Nero, where I come from, you means moon. It occurred to me, since it was the first impression I had when I saw your deep red eyes, as your hair shone, imagining a bright moon that floated in the immense night," he said, surprising the girl, who was excited at the explanation, and her eyes showed great happiness. "You, so from now on I'm you." "Thank you very much," Nero said, and he just nodded, noticing how she was completely naked. So he decided to take off his coat with the skin of the bear that he killed. "Nero, take it, you need it. It's not good to walk around naked," he said, and she looked at him and then realized that she was completely naked, embarrassing herself, being that her face turned red in an instant. So she accepted the boy's gesture, but then I look at him and he doesn't understood what was going on. "You, Nero, pervert," she said while covered her body. "Nero, tsk, I didn't take your clothes off," he said, very annoyed by the girl's late reaction. Although it was because she called him of that brought back memories, but he only let it pass. "You quickly put on Nero's bear coat," but since she is only 140 centimeters tall, the coat was very big. Nero took advantage of the fact that you put on his coat and drank more of his ambrosia to completely recover his lost power. But the moment he fully recovered, perception told him that there was an extremely dangerous enemy right on top of them. The next moment the roof collapsed. Nero quickly took you and used flash step to retreat at the same time that Nero looked at the place where they had been and could see what attacked them. The monster is 5 meters in length on average. He had 4 huge and long arms and 8 legs around him. A sharp sting was present in his 2 tails. Scorpions would be the best comparison. As for the 2 tails, it would be wise to assume that they are poisonous. "Nero, mind tch, unlike all the monsters I faced before, I can feel that this scorpion is in another category. This monster is very strong." He was sure that at the time of entering and using perception there was no other monster besides Anai and Rudra. "Nero, mind, this can only mean that this scorpion woke up when I released Issei. He is the last resort to prevent her from escaping. If I abandon her, I will be able to escape without any problem. That would be the most logical thing." Nero was hesitating. His gaze met Yu's. She was fervently looking at Nero and not caring about the scorpion. Her eyes were like a surface of calm waters, the resolution of herself, the eyes that conveyed his feelings. Yu had entrusted herself to Nero. Seeing those eyes and understanding her feelings, he lifted the corners of his lips and revealed a smile full of confidence. He had already decided not to worry about anyone else that aren't close to him, but now he was willing to protect you. The dull light that remained in his broken heart had that spark again, willing to protect those. Because of this betrayed girl, Nero made a promise to protect her. If he couldn't respond to Yu's pleas, then he couldn't be considered a man. "Nero, today I'm ignoring logic a lot. Well, it doesn't matter. Look at the scorpion with a grin. Come at me with everything you have for getting in my way. I'll kill you and devour you." The moment Nero made that statement, he quickly took the little ambrosia out of his bag and gave it to Yu to drink. She was with her watery eyes when she was forcibly fed with a strange substance, but she was surprised when her vitality was being restored. "Nero, Yu, I need you to get on my back and hold on tight." As he had hugged Yu with his right arm, he lowered her so that she could climb on his back and hold on tightly. He knew he couldn't fight 100% if he had to protect her, but he had no option. "Hold on with all your strength, Yu." Despite continuing, she clung to Nero with all the strength she had. The scorpion was not patient, so he shot a purple liquid from his sting. Nero evaded it by jumping quickly to the side, but kept his gaze in the place where the purple liquid fell and could see how it melted. He put himself in a safe place and began to analyze the scorpion. "Nero, mind, it has 2 tails. One shoots acid and the other I still don't know what it does." While Nero was in his thought, He took out his guns and began to shoot at the scorpion. A bullet traveling at 3.9 kilometers per second hit the scorpion's head and exploded. Yu, who was on his back, was surprised. With a weapon that she had never seen before, he fired a flash of light. There were no signs of magic. Rather, it seemed as if a thunder was running through his right hand without the use of a magical formation or an enchantment. In simple words, Nero was like Yu, capable of manipulating magic directly. They were the same, and both were in the abyss. She ignored the scorpion and concentrated only on Nero. On the other hand, Nero was using air dance to move in the air and avoid acid easily, but he had a gloomy expression for the first time since he ate the bear. Using perception and magic perception, he knew that the scorpion didn't move. He knew that the scorpion was about to do something, but he didn't know that. At that moment, the scorpion's tail was growing, and its huge sting, which was pointing at it, shot at an enormous speed. Seeing this, Nero was about to dodge it, but when he was going to do it, the sting exploded in the air and turned into pellets. Nero quickly began to shoot the pellets, and used steel legs to destroy with kicks those that his firearm could not. Then he saved his firearm and instantly took out one of his grenades, and threw them at the scorpion. This one exploded and covered the scorpion with burning tar. This grenade was one of the new inventions he had made with the tar that he picked up from the level of the shark. Once this tar began to burn, it would burn at 3,000 degrees centigrade. The scorpion had been wounded by the grenade, but at the same time he was looking angrily at Nero. Scorpion Issei. The scorpion threw itself towards Nero, as it stretched its forearms as if they were cannon shots. He dodged one, making a jump, another using flash step, another giving a boosted kick, with steel legs, and the last one evaded with a jump. Having dodged all his arms, Nero turned his head to see if he was still clinging to him. She had used all her strength not to let go and keep clinging. Seeing that she was still well, he used flash step to quickly reach the scorpion's back and took out his firearms, and then started shooting without stopping. However, this only caused scratches. Understanding that his firearm did not have enough power, active Gale Claw, his claws were distorted, and he began to attack, but like his firearms, he only caused scratches on that resistant shell. The scorpion got tired of receiving Nero's harmless attacks, and raised his tail to shoot them pellets. He jumped and dodged, staying in the air with his ability air dance, threw another incendiary grenade at the scorpion's back. That would keep him busy for a while. Nero mind that thing has two tails, one that throws pellets and the other acid, in addition to having a hard shell. My weapon doesn't have enough power to hurt it. Gale Claw can damage it, but if I want to do it, I must use more magic, and I'm not sure if the scorpion has another hidden trick. Well, I think I'll be safe. Nero, you hold on tight. Using his air dance and flash step skills, Nero threw himself towards the scorpion's face. He quickly covered himself with his forearms, without knowing that he was counting on him to do that. As he quickly approached the scorpion, Nero began to fill his lungs with air, and then a thin stream of fire was releases. Yes, Nero was using fire dragon roar, the fire enlarging it itself, and strike the face of the scorpion, who was protecting himself with his arms. Yu was surprised to see Nero spitting fire. The only creatures she knew that could do that were the dragons. On the other hand, Nero, who had just stopped spitting fire, saw how the shell of the scorpion's arms had melted, and he began to scream in pain. Nero, he had a smile of pride. This is the fire learned to kill a dragon. I haven't tested yet, but I believe I can kill a dragon with it. And now gathers power in his right hand. Devil Bringer. A light emerged from the Devil Bringer, appearing a second arm as he starts punching brutally, giving it some good combos. As the shell of the scorpion's arms were breaking, it couldn't stand the power of the Devil Bringer and it was destroyed, leaving the scorpion with only 2 arms of the 4 it originally had. The scorpion was totally furious, so it got up and pointed his tail at where his enemy was. On the other hand, Nero realized what the scorpion planned to do, and after looking carefully he saw that it was the tail with which he threw acid. Nero, it will be better to take care of those annoying tails. He fired another shoot from Donner. The scorpion quickly moved his tail to dodge it, but Nero's shoots also changed his direction, managing to impact and destroy the tail of the scorpion, making it lose his balance. Nero took rebellion out of his back, very careful not to hurt you, and began to cover it with his demonic power, giving him much more power. He used flash step to head back towards the scorpion, taking advantage of the fact that he was still unbalanced, and cut off another of his arms. Nero began to use flash step and air dance to move quickly while cutting the scorpion's legs, as well as in several other parts. Now the large shell that the scorpion had could no longer withstand the attacks of rebellion wrapped in demonic power. Nero also kicked the scorpion, while using steel legs to unbalance him every time the scorpion wanted to use his tail to throw pellets. He also spits fire to weaken some parts of the shell. Yu was very surprised to see Nero's true strength. In a short time Nero had cornered the scorpion. It was only a matter of time before the scorpion was defeated, but he made a serious mistake. He trusted himself, and just as when an animal is cornered, it is capable of all, the scorpion was no exception. Suddenly a powerful cry came from the scorpion. Scorpion key! Nero felt chills run through his body and immediately tried to withdraw with flash step, but it was already too late. The surrounding terrain began to vibrate, and countless fragments were expelled from the earth. Nero, damn it! This was a complete surprise. Nero was going to escape desperately in the air, but he twisted his body to protect you from an approaching fragment. This action caused his balance to be broken. He was able to dodge using rebellion and steel legs. When he was dodging, on the edge of his vision, he saw the scorpion shoot his pellets quickly. Nero's face became stiff. If he wanted to protect you, there was only one way: clenching his teeth tightly. He used his Devilbringer to summon a larger spectral arm that surprised you and swung it around to deflect all the pellets, but not all of them. Nero avoided fatal injuries. Since Yu was on his back, he decided to receive the little needles there were on his body. Nero was throw back for the impact, causing rebellion to fall. Then he rolled on the floor while the intense pain that destroyed his body. Yu was thrown away from his back by the crash. Despite the enormous pain Nero felt from the wounds he had as it started to regenerate and recover him, so he quickly shot a bullet with Donner towards the tail of the scorpion, destroying it, and without wasting time he threw a light grenade, which blinded the scorpion. He knew that wouldn't entertain it for a long time, so he took out his ambrosia and drank it to recover immediately. Once he was cured, he started looking for you, but she found him first and went to him. You, Nero! She ran to Nero anxiously. Her inexpressiveness was gone. She was about to burst into tears. Nero, I'm fine. Don't worry, just trust me. Now where the hell did rebellion fall? Despite Yu's concerns, Nero continued to concentrate on looking for rebellion to continue fighting the scorpion. Looking at Nero, she began to cry. You, why? Nero, what? You, why don't you just run away? Nero, what the hell are you saying? I'm not going to run away just because there's a stronger monster. Just trust me, and I have just suffered the consequences of that. I also told you that I would get you out of here, so I'm not going to abandon you. To survive, Nero was willing to do anything. He would cheat, lie, make surprise attacks, commit foul play. Whatever he needs. If he wanted to survive, he couldn't think of fighting, just that would only lead him to death. After all, in the time he had spent in the abyss, his way of seeing the world had changed. Nero's heart was shattered and corrupted because of the factions, and because of them he was thinking of abandoned his humanity little by little. His current mentality, his lifestyle, and even his body had ceased to be those of a human. Nero himself knew that there was no turning back to this, or at least that's what he thought. When he met that girl, what he should have done was abandon her, but he didn't. Something inside him didn't allow him to. It was at that moment that he realized that he had not yet totally lost his humanity. There was still some of it inside him and was recovering. She and all the friends and allies. Nero has managed to awaken that little light in Nero's dark heart. Thanks to her and everyone, Nero remembered his humanity. For that reason, he didn't want to abandon her. Nero gets up and starts to clean himself. Well, it's time to start the second round, he said. As he look at you, I'll create a shelter for you. He placed his hand on the ground and transmuted some walls around you. With that done, he turned his gaze to the scorpion. This one had already recovered and had found it. You, wait, I can. Nero, he take out some containers, drink them. You will recover with that. I'll take care of that thing and protect you, he said, show a warm smile like the past. For a second she wanted to say something, but Nero stroked her head gently, and being careful not to hurt her with his claws. She blushed when she felt Nero's caress and couldn't say anything. Nero advanced to where the scorpion was. The scorpion stared at him angrily. Scorpion Kisha, the scorpion's cry echoed. Waves began to form on the ground around him, but Nero didn't stand still. He made a huge jump and stayed in the air using air dance. He quickly glanced at the place where he had made the shelter for you and could see that it was still intact. To make it resistant enough, he put several layers on it and made sure it is very thick. Nero, let's get this over with. Using flash step, he threw himself at the scorpion and threw another grenade at him. The scorpion eluded him. He already knew Nero's attack style, or so he thought. What had been thrown at the scorpion was just a rock. By the time he realized the deception, it was already very late. Nero had thrown another incendiary grenade on the scorpion's back, making it burn. But that was not all. He put together his demonic power and shoot the scorpion with several shoot from Donner and Schlag. Nero landed on the ground breathing a little agitated. When the tar finished burning, the scorpion was seen. The scorpion was very hurt, but I still wasn't completely defeated. At the moment that Nero was about to attack again, but he saw you leave the shelter he had made. She raised her hand and pointed at the scorpion, while saying something he couldn't hear. At that moment Nero felt a shiver run through his body and jumped with all his strength to get away from the scorpion. A second later, a pillar of bluish-white flames of 67 meters in diameter formed over the scorpion. The scorpion began to flee from the pillar of flames, so as not to be injured, but you would not allow it. She moved her finger and directed the pillar of flames towards the scorpion. Scorpion Gujiyaya a scream full of agony. The pillar exploded in a flash of light, and everything was blinded by her. Nero only observed the sublime magic in total astonishment, while protecting his eyes with his arms. Soon, the flames disappeared and the magic ended. There, in the center was the figure of the scorpion in an anguished pose, with its outer layer melted by the flames. The outer shell, which did not even melt with the incendiary grenade of 3000 degrees Celsius, and had only done so when it launched its fire. The same one that did not crack when it was fired by a rail cannon. It was melted very easily by Yu's magic. Nero looked very surprised at the state of the scorpion, but in that he remembered that Yu had been very weak and had been recovering with the ambrosia, so it was most likely that that magic had left her very exhausted again. He looked at where she was, and as he had thought, she was about to fall. Using flash step, Nero got to where she was and held her before she fell. She seemed to have exhausted her reserve of magic, but she still seemed very cheerful when she was embraced by Nero. Nero, are you okay? She had a smile seeing Nero. Yup, just a little tired. Nero stared at Yu and she looked at him in the same way. At that moment the sound of the scorpion trying to get up interrupted them. Nero left Yu seated and raised his Devilbringer to manifest a larger spectral arm and punch it, completely killing the scorpion. Once he was sure that the scorpion was already dead, he sat next to Yu. Nero, you surprised me with that attack. Yu, what's his name? Yu Azure Sky. Nero, I see. It's a very powerful magical attack. You know, the next time you use an equally powerful magic attack, let me know in advance. Yu, I knew that Nero would dodge it. Nero, what did you rely on to believe that? Yu, I just felt that you would do it. I felt that you would understand what I was going to do without me telling you. Nero let out a sigh. Well, it's true that I could understand what you would do just by looking at you, but I keep insisting that you let me know next time. I don't want to end up like that scorpion. I will do it. Nero, well, it's time to go. Can you stand up? You know the strength that I use for that attack. Nero, despite having drunk all the ambrosia I gave you, haven't you fully recovered yet? How strange. Yu, there's a way to recover faster, she said, staring at him. Nero, what is it? Very curious. Yu, drinking blood. Nero, it's true, you're a vampire, so it makes sense for you to recover faster that way. Well, then, what are you waiting for? Yu looked at him in amazement. It was the first time that someone offered their blood. She crawled towards him and sat on his lap, and then timidly bit his neck. Nero felt how his power was being drained from him little by little. He just hugged her and waited for her to finish. For a moment Yu trembled, but soon buried his face deeper in his neck and burned it strongly. Maybe it was his imagination, but he thought she was happy. Maybe because it was the first time she tasted blood in many years. After several minutes, she finally separated from him. In doing so, she licked her lips with a delirious expression. Nero was fascinated, even though she had a childish figure. Yu's skin, which was previously emaciated, disappeared completely, and now her skin shined like white porcelain. The color returned to her cheeks, and it seemed to be a dreamy red-pink. The crimson eyes emitted a warm light. His small, thin hands caressed Nero's cheeks. You delicious. For a second Nero had a slight shiver when he heard her say that, but he recovered quickly and stood up. Nero, I guess you're better now, aren't you? Nero, well, then, let's pick up what's important and get out of here. Nero approached the scorpion and cut his flesh, then picked up everything he could from the shell. You didn't know why he did that, but she still helped him. Now that he had drunk Nero's blood, she had superhuman strength. After finishing taking all the flesh of the scorpion, he picked up rebellion and went for the flesh of the Issei and Rudra. The mansion said cannibalism, making him bang their head again, and the surprise that two sword can talk. Once Nero had everything, he returned with you to his base. She walked next to him and from time to time her eyes met, but he quickly ignored it and continued walking. Nero didn't know when his journey through this labyrinth would end, but it seemed that he acquired a new and reliable companion. Thanks for watching my video. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe and comment below your favorite part. Don't forget to support author and his story, link in the description. Sayonara, see you in the next video.